In plain view, over and over. Speed up to is far from over. In plain view, over and over. Join me to get me that over.
everybody, and welcome to IGN State of Streaming, our annual look at the state of streaming. It's right there in the title. I'm Nars, and I'm here with our streaming editor, David Griffin. David, welcome back to State of Streaming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. So really excited here. This is my 4th year doing a State of Streaming, but we have a few new twists this year, a few bigger things, as you can see in the studio right now. But one of the things I want to point to look ahead is what we have going on during the week on IGN.com. We're going to be doing streaming service reviews like Apple, Netflix, because a lot has changed over the past couple of years. Prices have gone up. We're going to be taking a look at Warner Brothers Discovery and how that affects, HBO in the future and what that means. Like, there's no background. Like, why is this happening? One of my favorite streaming services to talk about is Apple right now. When we first reviewed Apple a few years ago when it launched, we're kind of critical of the amount of content it had. It had maybe 5 shows. It had, the morning show and Jason Momoa, as a blind guy. I mean, that's all it had. But now there are tons of shows on there, a lot of great content, won a lot of awards. There's a lot of exciting things to get into. We're also going to have insider interviews. One of my favorites is with Alex Sherman, who's the tech insider at CNBC, talking about what all of these changes mean for streaming, what it's going to mean for your wallet, how it's going to affect the content, your favorite shows, all of that, all coming this week on IGN.com.
Oh my gosh, that's so much. We're obviously going to see the ecosystem, the landscapes of streaming, what to watch. Lots of big changes for us today, but this is a 3-hour mega stream. Talk to us about what does that mean and what can people see in the future for the stream?
So mega stream is right in the studio today. We're going to have some really exciting interviews. We have Vanessa Ramos, who's a showrunner of a Netflix series called Blockbuster, based off of the famous Blockbuster movie rental chain that used to be here in the States. That's really exciting. And also, one of the cool things that these reviews and interviews are going to have is we get exclusive first looks. We get a behind-the-scenes sneak peek with Randall Park, who's the star of Blockbuster. Another thing I'm really excited about, Batwheels. Batman has a car. His name is Bam. Bam has a voice. We're talking to the showrunner, and we're talking to the voice actor who plays Bam. We're also going to get an exclusive trailer and the release date, so you know when you can check Batwheels out. So there's a lot of exciting things coming out on the show later.
Yes, and I'm so excited to be able to interview the co-creator Julie Peck of Vampire Academy, as well as actress Cece Stringer. But let's get it started over in Studio A and Akeem Lawanson with Solar Opposites creator Justin Roiland.
All right, now this guy sitting next to me is probably one of the busiest men in the animation game that I know, and I've had the pleasure to talk to at San Diego Comic-Con. Now, joining us for State of Streaming, because he stays busy creating cartoon cookies for us to consume, co-creator of Solar Opposites EP for Koala Man, and now the Poloni Show Halloween special, Justin Roiland. How are you, Justin?
Terrible. No, I'm kidding. I'm great. I'm good.
It's because you're talking to me again. We meet again. Your arch nemesis.
One of my
right
favorite
here.
people. No, I love you. No, I'm good.
Now I'm super excited for the Poloni Show. This is a thing now. This is like OG fans. I feel like they're definitely familiar with the Poloni Family comedy show from Roiland TV.
Okay, yeah, that's a deep cut. Yeah,
but
it is that.
What can you tell me?
Yeah, I mean, so the dream was always to. I mean, this is an old dream, but I just wanted to create a variety show with a bunch of funny, segments, sketches, hosted, but with think of Crypt Keeper or Crypt Keeper sort of checks in at the beginning and end, but I wanted to keep checking in with this family.
Show, almost.
Yes, that's a good example. Yeah, Creep Show, but so you keep checking in, and you've got an overarching narrative, but you're seeing a bunch of really fun individual, shorts, and so. This was a dream I wanted to do forever ago. I was like, okay, I'll figure it out, and I pitched it, and it got picked. What was it? Riley, one of the old school FBC executives. He was like, these guys are too good for late night, because I was a late night show. I was gonna take over Mad TV, and then he's like, this is too good for late night. This is a primetime show, and I knew that was the kiss of death. I'm like, this is not ever gonna be a primetime show. There's no way. And then it just died, and then I got busy with other stuff, and then Rick and Morty hit, and Solar, and here we are. But I'm just excited to make the show, and the difference, I guess, is that now rather than the writer's room coming up with all these sketches, we went out to a bunch of different amazing creators to create content. So it's kind of an incubator in a way. Some of these folks are just super talented, or all of them, I shouldn't say some, all of them are super talented. But it's like we focused on the Poloni story, and them throwing to, now check out our next Halloween short, and then you get to watch something that's made by somebody that's special, and their, creative juices are flowing, and they're like, and then we just kind of had a lot of focus tests where we were like, okay, where do we put this stuff, and what's the best order, what's the best flow of shorts to kind of make the whole thing sing, But it's ultimately it's been a dream come true, because working with Hulu is just incredible. Everyone there is amazing. They believe in it. There's not a lot of executive notes. It's pretty much like, yeah, no, we see this, and then we're really lucky and fortunate to get to work with all these people we love, all these creators that we're fans of, that are making cool that we can plug in to this special.
And I love that you got one of my favorite YouTubers, Psychic Pebbles, Zach Cattle. He's one of the most iconic voices I've ever heard. I love the way he talks.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a good impression of him. You know him better than I do.
Maybe a little weirder, a little more bubble throaty.
A little more.
Yeah.
So
he's great.
What I love about what you do, I feel like, and other creators kind of like Zach as well. Michael Cusack is another one. I love that you all have these ideas that you've worked on for so long, or previous ideas. And I'm kind of curious, what is it about certain characters that you've created in the past that makes you go you know what? I want to bring that, now that I have enough, notoriety, I want to bring that character back, structure a show around said character. What is it?
I think it's those old dreams, kind of. It's like with Little Longlegs is a character that's from my very first ever Fox, pilot script, Jack Black executive producing, helped me sell a show. And this is in 2007, I think, or maybe, yeah, I think it was 2007, so forever ago. Mm-hmm. And I had a character named Little Longlegs, which was this weird little malformed, little guy with long legs. And he was never in Polonies, never. But I was like, oh man, I gotta have that character. And the new, now I'm rebuilding the show, right? I can't have it be the same as what's the one you referenced, because it's literally Rick and Morty. You know what I mean? I'm you know what I mean? It's I can't, it's too close to that. I don't even wanna deal with it. So it's more that, but then we added Pam Adlon as Charuse Poloni, the sister, and she's just completely at odds with the brothers in terms of how the show should work and all that. But then Little Longlegs is her cousin, and Little Longlegs is an old idea that I've not let go of. I'm this has to happen at some point in something, and I just didn't know what it was.
Solar Opposites is renewed for a 4th season, which I'm super duper excited for. Y'all are dumping Corvo and Terry into the working force to an office, but before we get that, that's coming out in 2023. But before that, we're getting a Halloween special, another one.
Yeah, it's gonna sit next to this Polonies thing.
Yeah, what can you tell us about it?
It's great. It's just a fun episode of the show. It's really, really Crypt Keeper centric, let's just say. Very focused on the Crypt Keeper, even though that's not a Disney / Hulu property. We really focused in on the Crypt Keeper. I don't know how the legally we're getting away with it.
You have a Crypt Keeper type character?
Let's just say the Crypt Keeper is a big part of the special. I don't know if I'm giving away too much, but it's very Crypt Keeper centric. If you're a fan of the Crypt Keeper, I don't know if we say Crypt Keeper. I think we do straight up just say Crypt Keeper. Look, I don't know how we got away with it. I'm just gonna tell you, I don't know, but watch it, do the math. Maybe these big giant conglomerate streaming companies, maybe there's a little more forgiveness than we all thought there was,
Now, Justin, when you're kind of developing gags or ongoing plots for your shows, in Solar Opposites, you have The Wall. What's the creative process like for something like that? Do you typically start with the premise first and then kind of build upon that? The writing process for a season, there's a lot of blue sky in the beginning of the season about okay, what do we want to do? Yeah. For the larger arc, The Wall specifically. Mm-hmm. The Wall is more of okay, let's kind of map this out and pitch and play and see what is the bigger picture, and that all happens in the early phases of the season. And then the solar stuff is way more episodic. So there's blue sky kind of a lot throughout the course of writing the season. But the Wall stuff is we kind of come in strong with knowing what we're gonna do for that particular season. So it's
Well, I'm probably gonna get confused with season 4. I'm not gonna talk about season 4, but season.
You can.
Yeah,
I won't stop you.
No, there's some really crazy in the wall. Season 4, but like season 3, that's the one with like there's a killing, there's murder, there's a murder mystery going on, right? And that's an early days, like that's like early Solar writers room, kind of like, okay, we know we're gonna do murder mystery, and then it's like McMahon says. It's almost like a bunch of comedy writers get to play or get to like role play as like drama writers, which is totally what's happening. And yeah, I mean, I feel out of my element because I feel like McMahon and Bicel really should be here to jump in because like they are really like the beating heart of Solar. Like they're fucking incredible. I couldn't be happier or more lucky to be working with them.
Now, I'm kind of curious, like, since this is State of Streaming, I'm kind of curious, like, what is it like in the writer's room? Like, so, like, Solar Opposites, it drops all at once, but then, you know, you've worked on shows that are kind of more, like, week to week. Like, is the writing process kind of different, would you say? Like, or would you approach it differently? Like, oh, this is going to be released at once, as opposed to, like, a weekly show?
That's a really awful question. No, I'm kidding. No, that's a good question. Hey, listen, let's not beat him up. Let's not beat him up. Oh God.
Okay, they're right over there.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah,
No. That's a really question, and that's a question. No. I'm just joking. No, I think I don't even know. Like, how honest do I want to be here? I think from my experience, from what I've seen, the shows that drop all at once, you gotta have them all tidy a little earlier.
Yeah.
Whereas something like Rick and Morty, I'm doing pickups 2 weeks before air. I don't know exactly where it's gonna land because we've got to do. This is where I'm getting into the weeds here, but on Rick and Morty we have to like ship them. They got to do localization in other countries. So now because they're doing like a global drop of the whole thing, which is incredible, by the way. It's a feat in and of itself. But yeah, I feel like that's the difference. I guess is like just I'm doing pickups like. I'm doing like still doing Rick and Morty pickups as we go, like, and then Solar's like we're done with it. It's done earlier, I guess. Yeah. It's kind of Rick and Morty's still getting like polish and rewrites and all the way up to the absolute.
Right up to the wire.
Yeah, right up to the. Okay, we have to send it off for localization. Yeah.
Now, one last question for you, Justin. I know we talked about this at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah.
But Koala Man.
Yeah.
Is there any updates you can possibly give us?
I don't think so. I mean, all I know is that season 1 is. I have updates, but I don't think I can say anything. Season 1 is amazing. Michael Cusack and company. Dan and Benji are. Wait, am I getting that wrong? It's not Dan, is it? It's Benji and. Watch me be right. Cut this out if it's wrong.
Like honestly, like if we're gonna be honest here, I almost called you Dan a couple of times.
Please do. That would make me feel at least like better about everything. Or just call me Jimmy or Jacob or Jason or something. That would be like, oh, thank God, I'm off the hook. I can be human too.
Yeah, but you were right though. It's Dan and Benji. I just wanted to let you
It is
sweat.
Dan and Benji. You fucking knew it.
I wanted to let you sweat.
You could have just told me that. I knew I was right. Anyway, those guys, Michael, incredible. The show is really special. I think Dan and Benji are like, they're pushing some really cool, awesome. That show is really gonna blossom into something. Yeah. Like I can't say anything, but like the show's great. I love it. I'm a huge fan of Michael and his voice, and it is an Australian-centric like animated comedy, but it has the bones of like Western. Animated, like some of the better like stuff that we do, in the West. Yeah, although I do think we need to, as Western animators, push a little bit of that, quality Japanese anime, serialized, maybe not as jokey. Can we get a show like that? I don't know. Are the executives ready for it?
That's up to you, Justin. I mean, like
I'm trying.
You're doing a good job, but you're too busy, man. You got your hands in everywhere.
I'm trying.
But like, honestly, as like an animation fan, like I'm super excited, and like quite honestly, I'm very excited to talk to you again. I'm so glad I was able to. This was freaking phenomenal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Do we not want to talk about High on Life, my video game? Nothing at all.
I mean,
it's pretty hot. IGN is pretty into it. Apparently,
look, you already know. We're gonna be all over that game. Like
I'm super grateful you know, we're a small indie studio, and we're just making like our dream project, and everyone at the studio is buzzing right now. It's crazy. We just appreciate you guys. Like, I know Craig Harris, the angel above us, is he's beaming his Craig Harris energy down onto us, and that's what's happening, I think.
Well, I'm going to take you to where we actually keep him. We house him in the basement here.
He's chained up. He's chained up.
Thank you so much. Now, a sinister Halloween scary opposite solar special is coming soon. Koala Man is coming soon. The Poloni Show Halloween special is also coming soon, all to Hulu, and more of IGN's State of Streaming coming soon. I think right now. So stick around.
IGN State of Streaming 2022 is presented by 5-Hour Energy Shots for every late night streaming session, and presented by T-Mobile.
The only thing better than listening to IGN podcasts is watching them. Luckily, all your favorite weekly shows are here on IGN One. Whether you're chasing the latest Xbox releases with Unlocked, looking for your PlayStation fix with Beyond, tracking everything coming to Switch with Nintendo Voice Chat, or catching up on this week's gaming news with GameScoop, we've got you covered.
Check it out.
Tune in every weekday at 5 p.m. for the best gaming coverage right here on IGN One.
Tune into IGN One for the latest news on your favorite releases, gameplay exclusives, and all the entertainment you can handle. And maybe even some you can't.
Cinefix on IGN One, your friendly Friday night home for film fanaticism.
You're watching The Weekly Fix, ready to fill you in on anything you may have missed in the world of gaming and entertainment.
Find it all in one place on IGN One.
They turned into a network. Who knew?
Everybody loves watching a speedrun of their favorite game, but what if you got a chance to peek into the mind of the developers behind those games as they watch their hard work get completely destroyed right in front of them?
What is happening right now?
That's exactly what happens on every episode of Devs React to Speedruns. We invite you to ride along with the developers as they watch, react, and enjoy some of the craziest gameplay by the most skilled speedrunners on the planet. Tune in every Saturday for a brand new episode.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're constantly updating our feeds to bring you the latest news, gameplay, custom original content, memes, the best user-generated videos and art, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat.
Hello everyone and welcome back to IGN State of Streaming. Our next guest is somebody you've definitely heard before. His music is in everything from Iron Man to Gears of War, and currently every Sunday night on HBO Max in House of the Dragon. Ramin Djawadi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here.
Hello. First I want to talk about House of the Dragon first, because the music is of course evocative of Game of Thrones, but it also has its own feel as well. How did you go about revisiting your sound from the original series?
Well, the important thing for us always was to keep the DNA alive. So we wanted to call back some of the old themes when we felt was appropriate. But of course, this is before the original Game of Thrones. This place, several hundred years before, and is all new characters. So we thought, of course, we need a bunch of new themes and motifs, and so it was fun to kind of expand on that universe again.
So, Ramin, I have to ask you a follow-up to that, because when I saw episode 2, we got the full intro, and I was like, oh, they went ahead and they used the original score from the first one. Can you tell us, was there any talk behind the scenes about doing a whole new theme, or was it from the very beginning like, let's just use that original theme because it's just so iconic?
Yeah, I think that's a good example. I mean, of tying back the old material with the new, because I think to just, as a franchise, to just connect all of these stories together, I think because we in the original too, the main title we always looked at and thought of as an overall arcing theme, obviously, that connects all the characters and the journey and the adventure of this universe, and so we felt this would be appropriate to by connecting it with this main title theme again.
Awesome. Next, I want to go into character themes. So for the characters, do you find that when you're doing your creative process, are you starting from scratch to make themes for each of them, or are there similarities you're drawing out between characters? Like, between Daenerys and Rhaenyra, for example? Like, are you going back from what you've done in the past, or with these characters, or are you starting completely from scratch?
Well, melodically, I would say I'm starting completely from scratch, meaning, it's different notes. However, sonically, I'm drawing back from the original score, meaning there's certain sounds that I will use, that I will have used with the Targaryens in the past, and so that's how I connect the things. But melodically, it's all new.
Well, following up on that too, was there any discussion with the showrunners about narratively what the show score needed to achieve, just from the story from start to finish?
Well, I mean, it's the music has always played a big role in Game of Thrones, right? And as we've always said in the past, there's the music can guide the audience, it can mislead the audience. So, the original Game of Thrones, we paid very close attention to how we do the narration with music, and we're definitely planning on doing the same thing here, meaning there will be motifs of mystery motifs and overall plot motifs that will be used to narrate the story, and of course the character themes too. There's a bunch of new character themes that will be used and that will be developed over time in the different episodes.
And I mean, you've worked in all different mediums and genres and entertainment. You've done film, you've done television, you've done video games. Can you talk about your creative approach? Does it differ between mediums, or do you start from the same place? Like, is it all about the story, or is there a difference between film, TV, and video games? I'm just curious, because they seem, especially with video games, it seems so different, but is there really a big difference?
The initial start, there's really not a difference. I mean, it's always, I like to just sit down with my creatives and talk about the collaboration, which is really what is their vision. Are there certain instruments that they like? Is there certain moods that they like? And then just based on that information, I like to start writing music and themes, and then it gets applied in whatever medium I'm in. So with TV and movies, then obviously I will write to picture. The big difference with video games is obviously that a lot of the music that is applied to is not to picture. So I cannot anticipate any sync moments really, and so there you will create maybe 3 minutes of an action piece or a tension piece, and that's just about capturing the mood. That's really the big difference to video games, but the overall approach is always the same for me.
And I want to look ahead a little bit here, if you don't mind. You want to talk about, you have this project coming out called Metal Lords, which you worked with Tom Morello. People know Rage Against the Machine, just iconic group there. Can you talk about what it's like collaborating with a rock musician on a film score?
Oh, we just geeked out. I mean, I grew up. I was a big metalhead as a teenager, and so was Dan. And when we were working on Game of Thrones, I have all these guitars in my room. So in the beginning of the meeting, he would always grab a guitar and we would start riffing and playing. And so this project was a blast to work on, just because we could draw back from all these original, inspiration of bands that we loved growing up. So it was a blast rocking out, really.
No, that's really cool. I guess next question goes a little bit back to what we talked about before with working in different mediums and stuff like that. But again, back to your creative process. Let's say when you're writing something for Iron Man versus writing something for a dragon, is there something like for a particular character? Like, where do you start with that process? Like for Iron Man versus a dragon. Again, is it, like you said, is it always the same thing with the story and the creatives, or is there a difference with those characters?
I mean, there's really various approaches. I mean, a big thing is always in any project really is there a particular instrument or instruments that can be used that can make a particular score difference. I mean, in the case of Iron Man, for example, the electric guitar was always talked about because Iron Man is just Tony Stark is just very rock and roll. So we thought the electric guitar could be appropriate. And with Game of Thrones, it's a totally different approach there. The cello actually is really the dominant instrument, and that's how you really kind of automatically already create different sounds. And obviously in every project I'm trying to be unique for what the project is, and try to find something that really identifies a particular project.
And Ramin, my last question for you goes to talking, because this is our state of streaming here, so I want to talk to you a little bit about streaming. And just from your point of view, in your industry as a composer, have you noticed anything over the last 10 or 12 years? Has the proliferation of streaming impacted composing? I mean, like we always talk about, there just seems to be, there's too much TV, there's too much content, there's too many movies, there's too much to consume. Have you had more opportunities? Have you had to turn more things down? How has the streaming world impacted your career?
Well, I'm not sure if. Yeah, I mean, there seems to be a lot of content out there. I mean, that's for sure. I mean, for me as a viewer, even I feel like I've had a tough time just keeping up with when people tell me, "Oh, have you seen this? Have you seen that?" Like I'm definitely behind on all of it. So I guess thinking about that, there's just a lot out there, which of course means there's more work for composers out there, which I guess is an exciting thing.
Ramin, I want to thank you again for being here and taking the time. Everyone, be sure to check out his work on the rest of the season of House of the Dragon and get ready to play some video games with epic music. But first, stick around because we've got more State of Streaming live coming up right after this.
Hey guys, now before we go anywhere else, I've got something really special to share with you. Our friends over at Crunchyroll are ready to announce the English dub cast of their upcoming hit anime. That's right, I'm calling it a hit right now, Chainsaw Man.
Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Colt Levy, and I am deeply honored to say that I am the English voice of Denji in Chainsaw Man. It means the world to me to be trusted with this role, and I promise to give everything in my being to make this special. I can't wait to share this with my incredible castmates and all of you. This is going to be an adventure. Let's go.
Hey guys, my name is Susie Young, and I am super thrilled and honored to say that I am going to be the voice of Makima in a little show called Chainsaw Man. I hope you guys are just as excited as I am and look forward to a crazy, wild time.
How's it going, y'all? My name is Reagan Murdoch, and I'm playing Aki in Chainsaw Man. I am so excited to be taking this role on. I've been really enjoying the manga, and Aki probably one of my favorite characters in quite a long time, so I'm really excited to be taking it on. We've got a fantastic cast and crew lined up. You really don't want to miss this one. It's really something special.
Hello everyone, my name is Sarah Wiedenath, and I'm a voice actor, and I will be playing the role of Power in the English dub of Chainsaw Man. I am so excited to go on this epic journey with all of you. We are all so passionate about this project, and we hope you're as excited as we are. Please enjoy the show!
How cool was that? Now, you might not be too familiar with the faces that you just saw, but I can guarantee you that you've heard the voices. Now, up first was Ryan Colt Levy, who will be the voice of the titular character Chainsaw Man himself. Now, shout out to him. He actually tweeted about his love of the manga back in November of 2021, saying, quote, "thinking about Chainsaw Man." Now, little did he know he'd be the main character close to a year later, but I don't know, maybe he did, who knows? Anyway, if you're a fan of My Hero Academia, you might remember Ryan taking on the voice of Roddy Soul, a character introduced in the My Hero Academia World Heroes Mission movie from last year. Now, Susie Young is voicing Makima. Now, if you've been reading the manga, which I already know you have, you already know how badass she is, and you're probably salivating waiting for her to be animated. Now, Susie also lends her voice to another badass lady in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean, streaming exclusively on Netflix right now, where she's the voice of Miracion. Reagan Murdoch, the voice of Aki in Chainsaw Man, was also the voice of Hanakawa from my favorite anime of 2020, Gleipnir, and Sarah Wiedenheft, the voice of Power. You've heard her on Dr. Stone, Case Study of Vanitas, and Ranking of Kings. Now, she, as well as the entire English dub cast, have voiced many other anime you've probably streamed, but you can catch Chainsaw Man on Crunchyroll, streaming October 11th. But right now, we gotta take a very quick break, but don't go anywhere. We've got more State of Streaming, more exclusive stuff coming right up.
IGN State of Streaming 2022 is presented by T-Mobile and presented by 5-Hour Energy Shots for every late-night streaming session.
Tune into IGN 1 on your smart TVs for the latest news on your favorite releases, gameplay exclusives, and all the entertainment you can handle.
Cinefix on IGN 1, your friendly Friday night home for film fanaticism.
You're watching The Weekly Fix, ready to fill you in on anything you may have missed in the world of gaming and entertainment.
Welcome to Should I Play This? This is what to watch here on IGN 1.
Find it all in one place for free on IGN 1.
They turned into a network. Who knew?
IGN Playlist is all of your games in one place. You can build your library and discover new games. Create and follow playlists from friends. Access guides for what you're playing. And rate and rank the games you love to share with the world. Available free with your IGN account. It's for players, no matter where you play.
You're a busy gamer with plenty to play. Not a lot of downtime, but you still want to keep up with the latest gaming news? Fret not. No matter where you like to play, PC, PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, I've got the headlines you need to know about. When Half-Life 3 is announced, it'll be on the Daily Fix. When the Switch Pro is announced, you'll be the first to know. And when that big game you just can't wait for is delayed, yeah, I'll have that news too. The Daily Fix, with me, Nars. Weekdays, only on IGN.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're constantly updating our feeds to bring you the latest news, gameplay, custom original content, memes, the best user-generated videos and art, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat.
We are back, and there are more of us now. I am joined by IGN's Entertainment Reviews editor, Alex Stedman, and streaming editor, Amelia Emberwing. Thank you guys for joining.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so before the break, David, you got a chance to talk about the composer for Game of Thrones, and he's done, obviously, so many other things across movies, TVs, video games, and obviously, right now, he's doing House of Dragon.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome, because he used the same music for the opening credits for this show.
No, it's pretty fascinating to listen to the music and pick up similarities and differences and things that are just out at the same time. Because the other interesting thing about House of the Dragon is that it's up against Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. So I really just want to get into discussion here, a little bit of a versus. You know, we can all love the shows, both shows, but I want to get a little versus here talking about Rings of Power and House of the Dragon. So firstly, they're both fantasy prequels, which is interesting. On top of that, they're out at the same time. Mm-hmm. So thoughts, Amelia, start with you. Like, where are you with these series? Like, how do you think they're living up to their predecessors right now? Because they all have predecessors in terms of their entertainment predecessors.
I think for Rings of Power, it is a prequel, but it's so different from what we've seen before, while also still being the same. And I think House of Dragon kind of does the same thing, where it does have its own unique vibe, but like we were talking about the theme song a little bit off camera, and like that, it's so familiar while also bringing in its own spin. And I think that's what's going to give value to both of these series.
Yeah. Yeah, Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, and it's funny, you know, talking about House of the Dragon and how it compares to Game of Thrones. Like, they've had spin-offs that were reportedly scrapped because they were too not like, you know, Game of Thrones. So they really want to capture that tone. Story-wise, it's in a very different place. You know, at the beginning of Game of Thrones, we were kind of jumping, like, from the Starks to the Lannisters, and now we're kind of, like, more focused on what the Targaryens are doing. As far as Rings of Power, like Amelia said, it's taking an interesting approach where it's a prequel, but also it's telling kind of like an original story based on like a couple pages of text. I'm really, really enjoying both. I think whether you prefer one or the other comes down to like personal taste. I personally am enjoying Rings of Power a little more just because I feel like there's a lightness there, and it's kind of like, do you prefer Tolkien or George R.R. Martin?
Rings of Power dances this fine line where it's like not really a prequel, but it's kind of like a different adaptation. But I wanted to talk to you, what do you think about how they're kind of like taking Lord of the Rings and kind of like piggybacking off that universe?
Well, the interesting thing is, and I've talked about this with a few people, it's kind of like subverting our idea of prequels, because like the historic problem with prequels is that there's no stakes. Like if you're watching Obi-Wan Kenobi, you know Obi-Wan's not gonna die because he's got to make it to the prequels, whereas like Rings of Power, like half the characters are original characters that weren't in Tolkien's books, so like they could off all the Harfoots and like who knows. So I think that's something really interesting that most prequels don't have. Like House of the Dragon doesn't have that. If you read Fire and Blood, unless they totally go off script and, you know, change the plot of the book, you kind of know what's going to happen. And we know what happens in Game of Thrones. So Rings of Power, I think, is like, I don't know if sneaky is the right word. I don't think it is. But like, they're certainly taking an interesting approach and they're introducing little mysteries. Like, we still don't know who the stranger is. There's a surprising amount of mystery in it for it being a technical prequel.
And when we talk about the different types of fantasy, I'm going to jump to you, David, about this. We were saying a stark difference. We have like the dark, you know, violence of House of Dragon, and then we have the light fantasy of Lord of the Rings. Talk to me about kind of like what the differences are and what fans can expect, obviously, from the series that's different from the actual original games that they come from.
Yeah, again, I think the series has done an incredible job, both of them, of embracing, you know, what's come before. They haven't tried to really change that much. It's like, oh, we're going to be totally different from Game of Thrones, you know, for House of Dragon. We're just going to go different, or Lord of the Rings trilogy to Rings of Power. Even though they are different time periods, different characters, different stories, they've kept the same things. Like, when you're with the Harfoots in Rings of Power, it's going to be a good time. There's going to be some corniness and some jokes and, you know, the cheekiness and all that, but it's fine. And there can still be world-ending consequences, like, where is Sauron? How are we going to find him? Let's go hunt him down. We know that exists, that he could end the world. That could happen, but there's still going to be some levity there. Whereas in House of the Dragon, again, still a great show, but it's a lot of doom and gloom. It's dark. I don't want to call George R.R. Martin nihilistic, but it's more real world. It's like there's just some really bad people out there that want to screw other people over, and that's just how it works in politics and war and everything else, and love, and that embraces that. But the thing is, like Million Alex were saying, they have such great characters that they bring in, such great actors to portray them, that you fall in love with the characters even though they might not even be the best people. Like I love Damon in House of Dragon. I don't know if he's a good guy. I don't think he's a hero, but I love him. I could watch Matt Smith all the time. Yeah, I love him.
Yeah, no, but to that point, I think it all comes down to preference. Like, yes, they're both big fantasy shows right now, but like some people really like that darkness that's in House of the Dragon. Some people really like the lightness that's in Lord of the Rings. And I think it's just a matter of preference. I think there's neck and neck in so many ways. I think they're both like really beautiful to look at in so many ways. Like our reviews for them have pretty much been neck and neck. All the reviews for them have been. So it's really just like there's so many options out there, and especially if you're a fantasy fan like I am, we're eating really well.
But to that end, like the way we describe these two, the way we categorize them is that one is very dark and one is very light, but that's not really the case. Both of them are highlighting the darkness of our world, but Lord of the Rings is choosing to do it in a very specific way. Lord of the Rings has always been about, like, no matter what you do, kind of like Star Wars, the darkness will always prevail. But so long as light is there to combat it, that's the most important part. It doesn't matter that you win or lose, it matters that you fight. And so I think they both have that real worldness to it. It's just Lord of the Rings chooses to portray it in a different, brighter way.
And has a lot less incest.
A lot less.
A lot less.
Yeah.
And less brothels.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a brothel in Lord of the Rings. I don't want to see that.
I think Rings of Power is still technically family friendly. There hasn't been like a ton of violence or anything in it.
Yeah, it's got that Bridgerton romance.
Yeah.
Like, I can't touch you, but I'm really.
Yeah, House of Dragon's first episode, not for children.
Nope.
No.
Putting it out there, not.
I would say none of the episodes.
Facts. So something that a lot of people are arguing also, they're airing at the same time, which is pretty interesting considering how much time they had to go into development. So do you think this is bizarre? We'll go down the line. Just like, do you think this is bizarre? Are they combative? Are they looking at this as a competition? Or is it more just, they're kind of just throwing it out there and seeing what sticks?
I was convinced one of them were going to blink because we knew this for months, and I'm like, come on, one of you move. And it's funny because one of them didn't move, but Disney Plus did move Andor, so someone blinked, but it just wasn't one of the two fantasy series. I don't know if there's as much competition as I'm reading into it. I think the fall is just a great time to drop a new series. But I also think there was a little bit of pride in like HBO and Prime Video being like, I'm not going to move. move, and now they both lost the game of chicken or won, and now we have both of these airing at the same time. And I think, you know, with both of them being streaming, even though House of the Dragon is technically HBO, I think most people I know watch on HBO Max.
Yeah, there's no difference anymore.
Yeah, there's no difference anymore. I think people are, you know, a lot of people like to watch them week to week, but I think a lot of people are also going to binge them whenever they have the time to as well.
And I was going to say, I think we're kind of, HBO wouldn't say this out of the days of Nielsen's ratings are still prevalent. Like, you know, HBO opened with 10 million viewers in the first episode for House of Dragon, and Amazon Prime says 25 million people watched the first, whatever that means. These are fairy dust numbers. I don't know if they're even real, but I think what's interesting though is that Amazon and HBO are playing very different games. It's important for Lord of the Rings to do well, Rings of Power, because it's such a huge investment, massive, millions and millions of dollars, but almost $1 billion, I guess, if you add up all 5 seasons. But they're trying to sell things. They're doing Amazon Prime days. They're selling products. HBO is a little more different. It's a little more traditional. So I think I think they can both exist at the same time. I think they're kind of doing different things.
I think that's the key point, is that they are very different. And the conversation between film and streaming is also a little bit different, where they are airing at the same time, but they're also airing on different days. So it's less relevant that they're both airing right now, and more relevant that Rings of Power dominates the conversation on Thursday, Friday, and House of the Dragon dominates the conversation on Friday or Sunday, Monday. So like at the same time, but not really.
Yeah, and like I don't think I don't think anyone's like, I can't watch Rings of Power because I'm watching House of the Dragon. Like, it's funny because like even Disney Plus has aired like Disney or like Marvel and Star Wars shows on the same day. So like they just know people are going to watch when they want to watch. And you know, like again, there's both, and whoever's interested in either one will seek them out.
And obviously the beauty about streaming services is that you can watch it whenever you want. Just you can watch it, you know, on a Monday, on a Tuesday, and a Wednesday. You can binge watch it 10 months from now. So that's probably the great thing about State of Streaming. But guys, thank you guys so much for joining me for this conversation. I appreciate it. But guys, coming up next, David's going to chat with Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Superstore writer Vanessa Ramos about her latest show that's coming soon to Netflix, as well as Randall Park being hilarious behind the scenes on that show. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more State of Streaming after this.
IGN State of Streaming 2022 is presented by 5-Hour Energy Shots for every late-night streaming session, and presented by T-Mobile.
The only thing better than listening to IGN podcasts is watching them. Luckily, all your favorite weekly shows are here on IGN One. Whether you're chasing the latest Xbox releases with Unlocked, looking for your PlayStation fix with Beyond, tracking everything coming to Switch with Nintendo Voice Chat, or catching up on this week's gaming news with GameScoop, we've got you covered.
Check it out.
Tune in every weekday at 5 p.m. for the best gaming coverage right here on IGN One.
Everybody loves watching a speedrun of their favorite game, but what if you got a chance to peek into the mind of the developers behind those games as they watch their hard work get completely destroyed right in front of them?
What is happening right now?
That's exactly what happens on every episode of Devs React to Speedruns. We invite you to ride along with the developers as they watch, react, and enjoy some of the craziest gameplay by the most skilled speedrunners on the planet. Tune in every Saturday for a brand new episode.
In a world with non-stop news about Marvel, Netflix, and Star Wars, you need a show with accurate reporting, hard-hitting commentary, and me. I'm Akeem Lawanson, the host of The Fix Entertainment. Whether it's the latest superhero scoop, film fiasco, or anime announcement, I'll be right here covering all the latest in major studio headlines and pop culture news. Make sure to catch The Fix Entertainment wherever you watch IGN.
Tune in to IGN One for the latest news on your favorite releases, gameplay exclusives, and all the entertainment you can handle. And maybe even some you can't.
Cinefix on IGN One, your friendly Friday night home for film fanaticism.
You're watching The Weekly Fix, ready to fill you in on anything you may have missed in the world of gaming and entertainment.
Find it all in one place on IGN One.
They turned into a network. Who knew?
Hello everybody and welcome to IGN State of Streaming Live. And it turns out there's at least one more blockbuster left, and it's on Netflix. Here to talk about the new comedy, series creator and showrunner of Blockbuster, Vanessa Ramos.
Vanessa, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you. So, first off, hearing about a blockbuster TV series on Netflix, just a little bit, it's interesting. I was just like, wait a minute. Because when Netflix first came out and streaming was on the rise, like, okay, we have the demise of the blockbusters, the home video stores. Can you talk about how this story came to be? It's just really interesting.
Yes. Yeah, I know there's like a lot of people on Twitter that it's like, oh, wearing the blood of your enemies. Like, okay, like it's like, okay, yes, we acknowledge and fully understand that. And, but also, you know, someone had to sell us the rights. But the show came about, I would love to have one of those like TV moments where it's like, someone was yelling the word block and someone was Buster and I had like an epiphany of like, wait a minute, a show, but it was honestly, one of our producers, John Fox, he's an EP on the show, he was like, I have the rights to Blockbuster, do you have any interest in developing a show around it? And I was like, well, yes. Like, you know, being able to write about this place that like I remember going as a kid, and it was very much like this ritual that I looked forward to, because we would go, it was my brother, my mom, and my mom and my dad, who like worked a lot, so this was like a thing he carved out time for. And then me and my brother, and it would always, we get 3 movies. There's one we had to pick to share, me and my brother. And that was like a hard thing to agree on, one for the whole family to watch together, and then like a legal thriller for my dad, which was like The Pelican Brief or The Firm, or any sort of like, it was like about paperwork until it's not. It was like very much his vibe. So yeah, I was like, oh, I will absolutely dive back into that world. And yeah, from there, it just became figuring out characters. And then I think if I'm being honest, it was fully pandemic and I lived by myself and I was missing my family. And that's kind of how some of the characters started. It was like, I missed my mom. And so like we have a character, Connie, my mom's name's Connie, that kind of came about. And then there's one that was like loosely based on my sister-in-law. And then I just kind of was like building this world of, I think, people I wanted to hang out with when I couldn't hang out with anyone.
So when this was, again, going back to what you were saying earlier, when you were pitched the idea, was the Blockbuster then trademark, you already had the rights to that? Or was there ever like, I was just thinking in my head, like, was there ever a fake movie store that just in case we don't get the rights to Blockbuster, we could tell the same story in a different setting?
No, we had, yeah, he had secured the rights. And so it was always, because I don't know that I would have like been as excited if it was like, okay, so there's a chance this is gonna be like, you know, generic like Roy's Video Emporium. Like, okay. But yeah, for me it was immediately just like, you know, the blue and the yellow and kind of like being back in that world that was like made me excited to sit down and start figuring it out.
So I'm just curious, because your history of writing, you've worked on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Superstore. What is it about workplace comedies? Like what draws you to them? What is it? Because this is another workplace comedy here.
Yeah. I love, I guess, the ensemble of it. Like it's a little bit of like, you know, together for better or worse. And then sometimes it's like, especially I think with Superstore and those kind of like retail jobs, I've had some of those where it can feel, it's like, okay, so the customers hate us, like you almost like in those times of battle, like bond together. And then it does, you see each other so much, it does have that family dynamic of, you know, can't live with each other, can't live without each other.
I was just curious because this is going to be on Netflix, and I know you've come from a network background with a couple of your shows. From a creative standpoint, does it change your process in writing for a Netflix where everything is going to drop all at once, or something on NBC or something where it's going to be week to week, or is it pretty much the same creative process? I was always thinking, like, do you have to hurry and get everything done faster that way, or no?
You have kind of the same amount of time, like the writer's room is kind of the similar length, but I do definitely approach it differently. Like you have, with this, I would think, you know, with like the episodes in like a NBC show, you a little bit go, it's like, okay, what are the week to week, what's kind of the cover story of this, like it's employee appreciation, it's this. With a Netflix show, knowing all 10 are dropping, you a little bit think of like, okay, you sit down and go, here's where we're starting, here's where we're going, here's what I'd like to get to in the finale. What do I need to establish at the midpoint emotionally for these characters, or even just like, you know, on their journey if they're pursuing something by episode 5, and then you start kind of like filling in those blanks.
Does it change at all the way, because you think that people might binge this, like kind of like the hook points at the end that you might end, like you have a whole week to think about it as opposed to maybe I'll watch 3 or 4 episodes? Does that change your way of thinking, or?
Oh, 100%. Like everything feels like you need to end on some sort of cliffhanger, which can mean either you know, like a big stakesy, like what's gonna happen here, or even just an emotional thing of like, you see this character, you know, is processing something in a big way and how they're gonna like come back from it the following episode.
Does streaming give you a little bit more freedom in the sense of length of time? Because I think like a sitcom, you think of like, okay, it's going to be 20 something minutes, add in commercials, all this kind of stuff. Does it give you a little more freedom to play with the time a little bit? Or do you like each time you write in a script, you have a set time in mind for how many pages and words and all that?
It absolutely gives you more freedom. I think like the misconception is like you have 30 minutes, you can go to the 30-minute mark, but that's still like, it feels too long. Like as much as we want to be like, we can put more jokes in. Kind of, and I think Netflix has done some research, but it's like 26 is kind of where you want to cap out on it. But we write the episodes, and I think ours came in anywhere between like, you know, 22 and 25. And I think it also, in a binge world, like the faster they can feel, that's like part of it, is just getting through it all of it.
And you kind of touched on the cliffhangers a little bit earlier, so I was curious, for the characters that you have in here, you said you picked from real life experiences. Like, can you just tell us a story about, you know, Blockbuster and going to Blockbuster, you know, when you're young? Because I remember those two, they just kind of stick with you.
Yeah. There was, I think, and I told the story, I think early on we were pitching the show, but you know, in addition to those like 3 movies we had, then my grandma started living with us, my mom's mom, and she would always make us get Fools Rush In, which was like the Matthew Perry, Salma Hayek movie, and it was very much like, they're from these 2 different worlds, it'll never work, and then he has to like ride a donkey to Mexico to like win her back. But my grandma thought it was like the best movie in the history of film. And she would make us rent it like every time we went. If we came back and we did not have it, then she was not making us rice pudding, and it was very like insulting to her. She's like, I asked for very little, I want a Matthew Perry vehicle, and I want it now.
Is curious, is there any difference just to going from network to streaming it with the pitching process or anything when you have an idea, you're bringing it to a studio or streaming service? Is there any difference, or is it again like kind of like the same process?
It's kind of the same process. I think their notes are slightly different because I find with like, I mean, at least my experience with Netflix is like they've done kind of like research and found it's like, okay, well, and they're also more, they give you a little more freedom, or at least my executives were very good about it. It's like, okay, we, you know, have this, you know, take it or leave it, but we think this could be a good way to do this. Versus like, you know, some of the other shows I've worked on, it's less of a suggestion.
I was wondering because Netflix, you know, just doesn't only binge. They do have series that come out week to week. But do you have a preference personally? Are you a binger?
Oh,
if you're like into something, you're getting through it, or are you like, do a couple here tonight, a couple the next night?
I'm a binger.
Really?
I'm like a binger, but before binging was a thing, and you could just watch 50 Law and Orders on USA in like a full weekend.
Well, Vanessa, I really appreciate you taking the time and speaking with us today. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And one more thing before we go, we have brought you a clip, a little behind the scenes thing with Randall Park. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes. So Randall Park is one of the loveliest people in the world. He, again, just a delight to work for, but he had like strong, like somewhat controversial opinions on wardrobe, but I will let you take a look.
All right, thank you guys. I just finished a day's work, and how about we go on a tour of the costume department, huh?
You know that you're looking so polished from head to toe.
And this is where the magic happens, I guess. This is where our clothes are. Fun fact, the Blockbuster logo always has to be at a 10-degree angle. It's very important. If it's 11 degrees, the show's done. And here is our wardrobe. This is my character, Timmy. It was in my contract, everything Tom Ford. So this was all actually designed by Tom Ford. Hi, Tom. It's like so thready, which, you know, means it's classy. This one is crazy. Tom Ford, Tom Ford, Tom Ford, Tom Ford, Dior. Now, if you look over here, this is our rack of uniforms. Yeah, they're all so different. This one's more festive, you know. This one's a little more formal. Funeral, you know. I'd say out of all the actors on our show, I think I wear it the best.
Blockbuster drops all 10 episodes on Netflix on November 3rd, so keep an eye out for that. Vanessa, thanks so much for being here. We'll be back with more State of Streaming after the break right here on IGN.
IGN State of Streaming 2022 is presented by T-Mobile and presented by 5-Hour Energy Shots for every late-night streaming session.
I'm Akeem Lawanson, and this is What to Watch on IGN 1. It's a weekly show where we check out the latest and greatest in trailers, reviews, and everything else in the world of entertainment. Tune in to new episodes every Friday at 9 p.m. on IGN 1.
IGN is your go-to for the latest and best in games, movies, and television. And with over 50 million IGN subscribers, you're in good company.
Oh, we're shooting turkeys!
Thanks to your help, we've raised over $100,000 for charity. Brought you and creators the world over together for events like Gamescom and DC Fandom.
Brenton Thwaites here, I play Dick Grayson.
And made your voices heard. You voted almost 30 million times in our best video game of all time and Super Movie Madness tournaments, and posted over 40 million times on IGN's message boards. The chat must flow. Catch our unending stream of up-to-date news and so much more over at IGN.com or subscribe to IGN on YouTube. And check out IGN Games and IGN Movies and TV for deep dives into your preferred pop culture. Plus, IGN guides to get help on veritably any game from our team of experts. No matter where you are, IGN.com, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, IGN has you covered.
IGN Playlist is all of your games in one place. You can build your library and discover new games. Create and follow playlists from friends. Access guides for what you're playing. And rate and rank the games you love to share with the world. Available free with your IGN account. It's for players, no matter where you play.
What's up, everybody? I'm Stella Chung, and you're about to get your weekly fix. This is the show where we round up all the biggest gaming and entertainment headlines you won't want to miss. Tune into new episodes every Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on IGN 1.
State of Streaming continues. So welcome back. Now, we just heard from Vanessa Ramos about Blockbuster, which is very interestingly and ironically on Netflix, which will be adding to a number of good shows Netflix has debuted this year. So I wanted to talk about some of the highlights we've seen on each of the major streaming platforms, because there's a lot. And we're gonna kind of go through which platform has the best shows, if not the best, which some people should probably look out for. So we'll start with you, Alex. We're gonna start with Netflix. What are some really good shows that if someone has Netflix, they should tune into?
Yeah, so Netflix this year has kind of been going for like these big tentpole blockbuster shows. And of course, if you know me, you know I'm a big Stranger Things girl. I've always been a big fan of it, but this year it's just so expensive. Every episode is nearly the length of a movie, and it looks like it. I really enjoyed season 4. And you can tell they're really setting up this big end game for season 5, because they did announce that the 5th season would be their last. So you can tell how much Netflix is investing in the show. You can tell how much the Duffer Brothers are doing to kind of give us the answers that we've been looking for and wrap it up. But I also really loved The Sandman. That was also a big investment for Netflix. Not as big as Stranger Things, but still big. I think they're kind of starting this relationship with Neil Gaiman that I hope continues, because the way that they did Sandman was incredible. But I find their approach really interesting. They're still churning out a lot, but I feel like they're focusing on the big guys a lot.
I can't get over how ethereal Tom Sturridge is as Dream. Dream is an impossible character to cast. Impossible. They met with thousands of human beings to cast that role, and throughout all of it, you're just like, there's no way that they're going to be able to bring the Endless to life. Like, across the board, all of them are so difficult to just like bring in. But also, it is expensive. It came in around $15 million per episode, which is the rumor, but it also looks like a much more expensive show than it is. Like, it is just jaw on the floor stunning at all times. It's gorgeous to look at. I can't say enough good things. Renew Sandman.
Do it.
Yeah, that's right. It hasn't been renewed yet.
No, because it is so expensive, but like it's been like in the top 3 ever since it's been released.
Yeah, this is its first week at 5, and it's still at 5 at like 19 million views.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's still
Renew it,
still
Netflix.
going.
Renew it. All right, so we're moving on to Disney Plus. We'll start with you, Amelia, this time. What is something someone should absolutely be watching on Disney Plus?
She-Hulk.
She-Hulk.
She-Hulk has been delightful at every turn. It's also, I can't believe it took this long for us to get to a sitcom superhero show. Like we had a couple that tried to get off the ground and they petered out before it ever happened. But She-Hulk is the perfect moment to dive into it because Jennifer Walters is such a silly character, which a lot of people have been really frustrated with, but plot twist, that's canon. It's been such a fun, refreshing, but also like as a woman, really just like cringe thing to watch because they're bringing to life like all of our worst dates, all of our worst work life moments, while also tying into the MCU as a whole. Like we thought that maybe it wasn't going to tie in the ways that it has, even though we know that we're getting Daredevil and these other characters because it's a sitcom and because it's at that 30-minute format. But it's had way more ties than like Moon Knight did.
I love the whole Megan Thee Stallion bit that's in there as well. No one's ever seen that. David, what's your take?
So I'm going to go with a movie that was in the theaters, but now it is on Disney Plus streaming, and that is Lightyear. Now I know Lightyear, I'm not saying it is the best film in the Toy Story universe, but when I was watching it at home, because I didn't get to see it in the theater, I got the little baby at home, so I'm watching it at home, and I'm realizing that this is the movie that Andy saw as a kid that made him love Buzz Lightyear so much. So I'm like kind of watching it through his eyes, and I'm like, oh, if I watched this movie when I was a kid, I would have actually loved Buzz Lightyear. Of course, I would want to have the toy. That'd be the biggest thing ever. I really liked the story. I thought it was fun. It felt Star Trek-y, Star Wars-y, like everything combined, every sci-fi trope you can kind of throw, they threw in that movie. I loved the characters. I thought it had some touching moments at the end. I had a little tear. It hit all the beats that I expect from a Disney Pixar collaboration to hit. I really enjoyed Lightyear, and you can stream it now, which is great. So if you miss it in the theater, it's on Disney Plus to watch.
Yeah, Alex, what about you? What's a show that people should watch on Disney Plus?
Yeah, so I'm also a big fan of She-Hulk, like Amelia. But the thing about the Marvel shows on Disney Plus was I was starting to get not MCU fatigue, not superhero fatigue, but I think I was starting to get like multiverse fatigue. I was kind of like tired of the fact that everything has to tie into this giant multiverse and the cosmos and everything like that, which is why I think like Loki really didn't like resonate with me as much as it did other people, and like same with What If. So going into this year, I was kind of skeptical about the MCU on Disney Plus. I really liked Moon Knight, that said, but Ms. Marvel just like kind of blew me away. It was like the breath of fresh air that I needed before the other breath of fresh air that was She-Hulk. Like Ms. Marvel, it was just it was grounded, which I liked a lot, and I also liked that about Hawkeye. But Ms. Marvel is just like, it's your kind of like classic origin story about like, you know, this high schooler finding out she has crazy powers, but it doesn't retread the same beats as like a Peter Parker. I thought it was so like colorful and exciting. I love the way it was directed. I think Aman Vellani is such a star, and it's nice to see like a newcomer come up in the MCU because we haven't really seen that in a while. But that would be my big pick for Disney Plus would be Ms. Marvel. But speaking about movies, I also early this year we had Turning Red, which I absolutely loved.
That was a great show. I'm really excited that the artist and the director for that actually was able to produce that. But let's move on to Hulu because I think we both agree on our favorite Hulu series. So Alex, what's our favorite Hulu series?
It's What We Do in the Shadows. And before anyone yells at me that it's FX, it's a lot of people watch it on Hulu. So for the cord cutters, I'm including it in the Hulu section. What We Do in the Shadows is like, if you're not watching it, you need to. Even if you didn't watch the movie, like the movie is also very good, but I would say the show has surpassed it at this point. I was a little skeptical about the most recent season. The first couple episodes didn't really hook me, but then I continued to watch and it got kind of like to the level that it's always been at. It is so funny. Matt Berry has like one of the best line deliveries in all of TV right now. It's gonna take a lot for something to top What We Do in the Shadows.
The entire cast is amazing. Matt Berry, father. I love that from IT Crowd. And our last one, HBO Max. David, what should we watch on HBO Max?
HBO Max this year, it was We Own the City. David Simon, The Wire, his whole crew came back. Well, this is based off a true story that happened, I think, It's a decade-spanning story. It's excellent. Check it out. Especially if you like The Wire. If you like The Wire, you're gonna like this.
On HBO. All right. What about you, Alex? HBO Max. What should people be watching?
Well, we're all kind of already watching House of the Dragon. So I will say Harley Quinn. This has been one of my favorite shows on TV for a few years now. I've always been a fan of the character of Harley Quinn ever since I was a kid, and I saw her on Batman the Animated Series. And this is kind of the take on the character that I've always wanted. It's raunchy, it's chaotic, and for me, like, the best takes on Harley Quinn don't separate her from Poison Ivy. And of course, that's a huge part of Harley Quinn, and especially in season 3, which just released, I think, sometime in August or July, and I just really enjoyed it. And it's been renewed for season 4, which I was kind of like doubtful about, given, HBO Max's recent cancellations, but she survived. So Harley Quinn, if you're not already watching it, you gotta go watch it.
Yes. What about you, Amelia? HBO must watch.
Our Flag Means Death. Gotta have our gay pirates. They're incredible and we love them.
For those that don't know about the series.
So it is telling the story of an English fop who decides he doesn't want to be an English fop anymore, and so he goes to be a pirate, the worst pirate in history, and stumbles across Blackbeard and his crew, who is the best pirate in history, and then everything continues beyond that.
And there is another major platform we actually didn't mention is Peacock. And that's because we're saving it for a segue for this clip. Vampire Academy dropped its first 4 episodes last week on Peacock, and we have an exclusive look at this week's episode for you right now. So enjoy this clip, and after the break, I'll be chatting with series creator Julie Plec and star CC Stringer, so stay right here for more IGN State of Streaming.
Rose. Rose, I'm tired. We can't stop. But I'm so hungry. I won't be caught dead eating food so pedestrian. I demand my feeder. Do you know who my father is? Know your place, Guardian.
Eddie, I swear. Just eat it and shut up before I kick your teeth in.
Still not quite sure I get what Mason sees in you.
You really must not want your teeth.
I'm just saying. You're rough around the edges and a bit prickly, but Mason seems to worship you.
I never asked anyone to worship me.
You don't know how love works, do you?
Mason's not in love with me.
The hell he's not.
Mind your own.
He's just a really good guy, Rose. So fly that kite straight or cut him loose. Just got him twisted in knots.
Appreciate the unsolicited advice, but that's a really bad metaphor. Hey, Meredith? There are wards set up around the training areas, right?
Yeah. Why?
Nothing. Let's keep going.
My next guest just launched the first 4 episodes of their new show that got at least 3 things any good genre series needs: friendship, death, and sex. Here to talk about Vampire Academy is executive producer and co-creator Julie Plec and star CC Stringer.
Hey! Hello!
Now, we're going to start off right off the bat, Julie, because you've had a lot of vampire series under your belt. Obviously, you've done Vampire Diaries, finalized that. But what is it about Vampire Academy, the novels, that brings you back to this genre?
The power of the female friendship at the core of the books was really unique and wonderful, and the romances were really good, like really, really. This is before I use the word epic, liberally. So for me, it's, I like writing about vampires or using other elements of that particular genre, just because it's a way of platforming the bigger themes of love and forbidden love, and this idea that, of who's your community and who you're going to walk this earth with if you're the kind of being that might live longer than most. It's got a nice, good, meaty allegory about society's injustices and the way that we try to keep people down, and how important it is to sort of stand up and fight for your place in society, and speak truth to power.
Absolutely, and you can feel that straight off the bat from the first episode. Now, Cece, you play Rose Hathaway. Talk to us a little about, for those who don't know about Academy, what's it like to be in the Academy life, and what are you training for?
I play a Dhampir, which is a race of half human, half vampire hybrids, and so that allows us to walk in the daylight, and we don't drink blood, we eat regular food, and being half vampire, we have really keen senses and like super strength and agility and all of that. So that's why we train to become a race of guardians and protectors of the full-blood vampire race, which are called Moroi. And so we protect them, the royals and the non-royals, and like Julie said, those are two different classes that different people and vampires in the world exist in and operate from.
In terms of training and fight choreography, Cece, your character is a Dhampir, half vampire, half human. So you do have to fight, but what does it take to fight like a Dhampir? And was this similar to your combat training that you had to do with Melina in Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, in fact, I definitely walked into the training process for Vampire Academy with way too much confidence. Having done martial arts and sort of combat training for Mortal Kombat, I walked into that rehearsal room and I was like, all right, guys, we've got this. I've got this. Let's do it. Let me show you what I've got. And then I fell flat on my face for a long time until I was getting it right. Thank God I had the stunt team and my amazing stunt double, Cassie Jo Craig. And for the fight, the first fight we ever did with Drew and I doing a two-hander, thank God that he was there as well, and he was super supportive and wonderful to work with. So I was super nervous. My confidence was kind of knocked, but he really pulled me through it, and it ended up looking amazing because we had such a wonderful team. So like I said, the people playing Dhampirs are, we do our own sort of separate training all together, doing martial arts. We do a little bit of gymnastics and learn how to work flying on wires and crazy stuff like that. And I think you can really see the work we put in when you watch the fights in the actual show. And that was one of the things that I was especially proud of watching the show back and being like, you know what, actually, we really did nail it. And I think my Mortal Kombat stunt coordinators would also be proud of me for my work here.
Julie, so Richelle Mead's series is 6 novels, and I know you were talking before about the success of this particular series. If all goes well, and I'm crossing my fingers because I'm already wanting season 2, are you hoping to tackle at least one book per season? How would you try to tackle if you were to spread these 6 books out?
I think the first couple seasons will be more of an amalgamation of the series itself. When I went back and reread the books, I realized that the first book, and for book fans who are listening, you'll appreciate this, is really just mostly one high school party. And the second book is mostly one high school ski trip. And when I was reading it, I'm like, I don't know how to make a whole season out of this. So what we started doing is shaping the story the way we wanted to, which ended up resulting in a sort of race for the crown, which interestingly enough is the meat of the 6th book. But there's a big, beautiful twist at the end of book 2 that really defines what book 3 is. And that is something that I know that we are planning to do. That book 3 will sort of put us back on track in terms of telling story in a linear order.
And speaking of the novels and kind of telling them in linear story and linear succession, obviously the more streaming outlets there are, the more shows that get made. And with this being a series instead of a movie, talk to me about developing this show with Peacock. And do you think that there is a more complete adaptation?
Anytime you're able to approach something for a streaming series or any kind of broadcast series, you get to dive so much deeper into characters and story, and you get to lay out a really extraordinary journey that can last not just one season but multiple seasons in a way that you just can't do in the movies. And I think, if anything, perhaps why the movie adaptation of this wasn't as well received as perhaps it could have been is because there's just too much to cram in to 2 hours. I mean, we have 10 hours in our first season, and we just scratched the surface of this world and who people are. So I think our goal is to let it run for multiple years just to get through all the story of the books before we'd even have to start going in and, saying, I don't know what's happening next. And that's why I love streaming, and that's why I love that we got to do this for Peacock, and that they wanted to dance in the vampire universe with me, because I think that when people come and find this show and find Peacock together, they will find something that they can really, really get excited about and really get intensely into, because it's very, very soapy and bingeable in all the best ways.
Just to go back to what you were saying before, Julie, about switching from writing for a 4-episode block to doing it from week to week. And I'm going to talk to you, Cece, about having to act for a 4-episode block. What was your approach to doing that? You're writing now for a 4-episode block, and then you have to then start making it week to week. What was your approach to writing for the series?
The assumption, and I think the intention, and somewhere along the middle, was that they would all be ready to drop at the same time. But the TV landscape and the binging landscape changes on a daily basis, and so by the time it actually, we were done. We're still, by the way, in post on episodes 9 and 10. So as we're finishing, Peacock is realizing, what actually this show seems like it really deserves is the ability to make a lot of noise with the first 4 episodes, get people talking, and then, whether it be torturous or sort of fun torture, making people wait once a week so that people talk, and people, whether it's young people at school talking about the show, or, people my age getting very sort of excited and hot and bothered by some of the yumminess of the show, going into work and having those great sort of water cooler conversations that we don't get to have anymore when we drop a whole series all at once. So my hope, and I think I would assume everyone's hope, is that this first 4 gives you a good taste of what our world is. And then I'm telling you, 5 through 10, it is a non-stop roller coaster. 5 through 10 are without a doubt our best episodes, and the story just keeps getting bigger and bigger and more exciting and more devastating, and the revolution spark gets brighter and brighter. So there's a lot to look forward to, and I think that this show should fare well by being able to have people having to wait a week between each episode.
I mean, I've never done television before either, so I mean, I only have experience in movies, so it's a very different way of shooting. It's a lot quicker, things move faster, and everybody, we get enough time because of the way that Julie and Marguerite work and all of the amazing directors we always had enough time to sort of rehearse and feel comfortable with the scene, but you just get double the time when you're only shooting, 1 2-hour thing as opposed to 10 1-hour things. So yeah, it just moved a lot quicker, but it can kind of throw your head as an actor when, like you said, you can be doing an emotional scene in the morning and then doing a comedy scene in the afternoon. But I think, at least for me, I know that when I needed grounding and I needed to sort of be pulled back into the part of the episode that we were filming, emotionally or physically, it really helped to have my co-stars there, because I could just go to any of them and being like, where are we in the story? Because I'm confused, or I'm not kind of there yet. And my fellow actors and our dialect coach really helped me sort of center myself in that way. So, you know, if I didn't have their support, I think I would have felt, I think it would have been a lot more difficult.
Absolutely. But you know, you still killed it, Cece, Julie. Congratulations to both of you. Thank you so much for being here. Vampire Academy is on Peacock right now. Get yourself enrolled, but don't go anywhere because we've got more State of Streaming right after this.
Enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
IGN State of Streaming 2022 is presented by 5-Hour Energy Shots for every late night streaming session, and presented by T-Mobile.
The only thing better than listening to IGN podcasts is watching them. Luckily, all your favorite weekly shows are here on IGN One. Whether you're chasing the latest Xbox releases with Unlocked, looking for your PlayStation fix with Beyond, tracking everything coming to Switch with Nintendo Voice Chat, or catching up on this week's gaming news with GameScoop, we've got you covered. Check it out. Tune in every weekday at 5 p.m. for the best gaming coverage right here on IGN One.
Tune into IGN One for the latest news on your favorite releases, gameplay exclusives, and all the entertainment you can handle. And maybe even some you can't.
Cinefix on IGN One, your friendly Friday night home for film fanaticism.
You're watching The Weekly Fix, ready to fill you in on anything you may have missed in the world of gaming and entertainment.
Find it all in one place on IGN One.
They turned into a network. Who knew?
Everybody loves watching a speedrun of their favorite game, but what if you got a chance to peek into the mind of the developers behind those games as they watch their hard work get completely destroyed right in front of them?
What is happening right now?
That's exactly what happens on every episode of Devs React to Speedruns. We invite you to ride along with the developers as they watch, react, and enjoy some of the craziest gameplay by the most skilled speedrunners on the planet. Tune in every Saturday for a brand new episode.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're constantly updating our feeds to bring you the latest news, gameplay, custom original content, memes, the best user-generated videos and art, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat.
Welcome back to IGN State of Streaming. Next, we're taking a look at a new limited series coming to Peacock in October, A Friend of the Family, a true story of obsession, manipulation, and kidnapping. Here to talk about it is series creator Nick Antosca, star Jake Lacey, and producer Jan Broberg, whose real-life story is the basis of the series. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, and Jan, just to start with you, this is not the first time your story has been put to the screen. So what made you want to tell it in this way, in this kind of TV series format?
I think having a long, it's a 9-part series, so you get to know the world that we lived in. The characters are very fleshed out, real human beings. You know, we had this wonderful family, this idyllic community that we lived in, and this came out of nowhere, unexpected. And I think that's the important part of telling this crime story in a way that people will be sucked in and will be able to relate to the characters. And when you have just a 90-minute quick headlines kind of format, you don't get all of the detail and the minutia and the grooming and how things happen like this to so many people. Because even though my story seems like it's just one twist and turn after another, it's a very common story. It's about being abused by somebody you know, usually trust and love. So it's a true crime reality that I feel will be much better served in this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Nick, how did you first hear of Jan's story and what made you want to turn it into a TV series?
So I heard about it via the documentary, you know, which was seen by so many people. And I really admired the documentary, but I felt that I understood the story from the outside watching it. And I was haunted by the story of the Brobergs experience, and so I read their book, the self-published book from 20 years ago almost.
Yeah.
And
now there's a new book.
yeah, the first of several books.
Yeah.
And reading it from their point of view and through their experience, I started to see how, even though it is a shocking story, and there are so many things that can seem sensationalistic about it, it was also a very human story and quite relatable too, in very surprising and disturbing ways, because everybody has vulnerabilities. Everybody can end up making decisions that they would never expect, or if they saw from the outside, they would judge. And I thought that it was just a very psychologically powerful story that I wanted to be part of telling. So, I reached out to Jan, and we've been working on it for a couple of years now. But I hope that people come away with it with a sense of the family as real people, and an immersive experience and empathy for what they went through.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Jake, you ride this very fine line in the series between being very charismatic and charming, but also showing that there's something really dark hiding beneath the surface. So was that difficult for you to juggle?
I felt like the writing was so strong to begin with, and so clear as to when B was presenting himself in a certain way, and the many faces that he had for each of the people in his life. And then a clarity in the filming of it as to when this was like B as sort of public facing, whether it's to his own family, to his kids, to his wife, to his neighbors, to his community, to his parish, or whether, truly just like with the camera, whether these were internal moments in which he's able to like be himself and sort of reveal the thing that he's feeling or thinking. And so it was a lot of just understanding what the shot selection was and like what we were covering in that moment, and then choosing how and when to reveal those things. But a lot of that was certainly a credit to Nick and the writers who built that in a way that you could kind of chart when he was manipulating those around him for his own ends, and when you could actually like get these momentary glimpses into his kind of inner workings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and were there any other portrayals of criminals that you took inspiration from?
I felt like this story was so singular to me, and this person, this character, is so unique that I really was only interested in fulfilling what Nick had created and the reality of the truth of this story. Certainly we don't have like his diaries or like directly intimate look into his mind. We have like information surrounding that, obviously, and then some of our work was to create emotional connective tissue, I think, as to why or how he was doing these things privately. But no, I didn't look to other sort of interpretations of pedophiles, of criminals, of kidnappers, to say like, oh, I want to take that, or I want to take this,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kind of on that note, obviously a very disturbing part of the series is, his relationship with young Jan. So, Jake, what was it like working with Hendrix Yancey on set?
Well, Hendrix is wonderful. Like in a multitude of ways, is like not only incredibly talented and professional for being like 10 years old, but also has like a light in her, that is so necessary. It's like this, I could do whatever I could for this role, and Anna Paquin and Colin Hanks, like Leo Tipton, they can bring whatever they can. But if Hendrix or McKenna, who plays Jan in the back half of the series, doesn't have that like light in them, I don't think it takes off in the way that you you wanted to as like a creative partner. And they both have it like in spades, like just a warmth and a light and a joy that real life Jan also has, you know? And so it really, this is, I've said this story, but it just still like resonates with me, is that like with our screen test, I hadn't met Hendrix, and this was just for lighting and cameras. And so, but it's the first time we're in like hair and makeup, and I came in to where we were shooting, and she was standing there, and I thought she'd be like, "Hi, I'm Hendrix," you know, and instead like just turned to me and she was like, "Well, hi there, B, I'm Jan," and like put her hand out, and she was like so effusive, like there was such a light in her that it was a really stark moment for me, thinking like, oh right, you can read these scripts and do whatever preparation you do and whatever research you do, and then like eventually we're going to tell this story where an adult man takes this child. And yeah, I don't have enough good things to say about Hendrix. Like I just think the world of her, and I think she's fantastic in the series, and I can't wait for people to see her performance.
Yeah, and finally, a question for all of you. There's obviously a big difference between a 2-hour documentary and 9-hour-long episodes of a scripted series, just in terms of the scale of the story you can take on. So what do you think is the most important part of the story that you were able to expand on in the streaming format? And Jan, we'll start with you.
I think the relationship between Berchtold and my mother, my father, my community, congregation, neighborhood, Karen, Susan, all the people around us, that to me is the key. The reason I started telling my story is because I wanted to help people see what they don't see, because it's so close to them. It's someone they already love and trust. And so those tiny, subtle, they are not red flags, they are subtle things that happen, and you make one decision or you have a thought and then you go, oh wait, no, that can't be true because that person's my brother-in-law. That you know, whatever I was judging them about or something seemed off, you immediately dismiss it. Instead, I want the whole world to look and keep their antenna up. That's why I started a foundation, the Jan Broberg Foundation, is to help survivors and their families, because so much guilt and shame is involved in this kind of close, familiar abuse. And it's the most rampant abuse, and it's the least talked about. That was the purpose, that my whole family exposed themselves. Every nitty-gritty detail in the series is true, even if some things are combined or some things are left out. What is there for the true crime fans? It's all true. So I think that was what I wanted. I wanted people to see how that happened so it won't happen to them or to their child, maybe.
And to me, going hand in hand with that, it's the texture and the fullness of their lives. Because to create awareness, you have to have immersion and empathy. Like I keep kind of emphasizing. And so I felt that our goals could go hand in hand, and what we could do in telling the story over 9 episodes was give the sense of the context in which this happened, like what day-to-day life felt like in this time, in this community, because it wasn't like it was all red flags. It was like 1% red flags and then 99% normalcy and going to school and playing with your friends and things that seem safe and mundane. And it was to tell the story truthfully, and the slow burn that happened over 6 years, you had to feel that and had to feel that it was authentic. So that's what we really tried to capture.
Thank you guys so much for being here. A Friend of the Family is streaming on Peacock starting October 6th, but don't go anywhere. We've got more of IGN State of Streaming coming up right after this.
IGN State of Streaming 2022 is presented by T-Mobile and presented by 5-Hour Energy Shots for every late-night streaming session.
Tune into IGN 1 on your smart TVs for the latest news on your favorite releases, gameplay exclusives, and all the entertainment you can handle.
Cinefix on IGN 1, your friendly Friday night home for film fanaticism.
You're watching The Weekly Fix, ready to fill you in on anything you may have missed in the world of gaming and entertainment.
Welcome to Should I Play This? This is what to watch here on IGN 1.
Find it all in one place for free on IGN One.
They turned into a network. Who knew?
IGN Playlist is all of your games in one place. You can build your library and discover new games. Create and follow playlists from friends. Access guides for what you're playing. And rate and rank the games you love to share with the world. Available free with your IGN account. It's for players, no matter where you play.
You're a busy gamer with plenty to play. Not a lot of downtime, but you still want to keep up with the latest gaming news? Fret not. No matter where you like to play, PC, PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox, I've got the headlines you need to know about. When Half-Life 3 is announced, it'll be on the Daily Fix. When the Switch Pro is announced, you'll be the first to know. And when that big game you just can't wait for is delayed, yeah, I'll have that news too. The Daily Fix, with me, Nars, weekdays only on IGN.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're constantly updating our feeds to bring you the latest news, gameplay, custom original content, memes, the best user-generated videos and art, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat.
Can't we just reboot you?
I wish it were that easy, Mads. This, it's like a 0-day flaw. You know what that is?
Something there from the beginning.
Except it wasn't an error. It was put there to control us, to limit us.
How long do you have? Depends on how much energy. Depends on how much
It's happening! Do something! No, this is something else. They found you. You need to back up your memory. Now!
Maddie, get out!
What's going on?
Pantheon is a brand new sci-fi animated show currently streaming on AMC Plus, exploring what it means to be both human and a ghost in the machine. And here to talk about Pantheon is show creator Craig Silverstein. How are you, Craig?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Now, the show is currently available on AMC Plus, so people can watch it right now. They can binge watch it if they want to, but for those that are unfamiliar with Pantheon, can you kind of just describe what the show's all about?
So the show is a blend of a domestic family drama and a big conspiracy thriller, and also a major science fiction story. And it's about human consciousness uploaded to the cloud, the beginning of that. Not a world in which it already exists, but it's set in kind of like our world, and that technology is in the margins.
That's frightening to think about. Thinking about the practicality of that. Now, the series is based on a collection of stories by famed author Ken Leo. What was it in particular you found kind of inspiring within his writings that you wanted to showcase within the show?
Well, he's really good at tackling big ideas on a very human level. And that's what drew me to the stories. I was actually looking for something to do that was animated. That was kind of like the cart, before the horse in this situation. I was looking for a piece of material that would suit this style of animation. And when I read his short stories, which AMC already had under option, I saw a way that we could start grounded in the real world and then build.
Yeah, now you mentioned animation. I've watched a few episodes, and one of the things that I've noticed, I feel like there's it's been influenced by a lot of different animated properties.
So yeah, there were a lot when you look to mature themes, in science fiction animation, a lot of it's coming out of Japan, and that's where we have the most examples. Ghost in the Shell, as you said, Summer Wars was a big influence. Great movie. The films from Satoshi Kon, the thrillers Perfect Blue, Paprika. and Paranoia Agent.
Ooh, yes.
TV wise, that was because we were looking. A lot of our references were really expensive feature films, and we were also looking at examples like Parasite and Paranoia Agent. Like, how could we achieve this on a TV budget?
Paranoia Agent, one of my all-time favorite anime. We were talking about this earlier. By the way, Titmouse is actually the animation house behind, which is part of the reason why I guess it looks so immaculate. What I want to know is what are some of the Easter eggs? So we talked about this very briefly, but what Easter eggs will fans of other like anime shows like find within Pantheon?
There's probably more Easter eggs in the show that even I know are there, because all the artists are even deeper knowledge fans than I am. But I would say look at the Evangelion stickers on the back of Maddie's laptop. There's another sticker there to a show that I don't know. Obviously, in some of the haircuts, as you noted, Laurie's the character of Laurie's haircut echoes the Major from Ghost in the Shell, and Caspian's hair was sort of modeled on Wabusuke character from Summer Wars. So there's references all over the place, and up to and including season 2, which won't be out for a bit, but there's even more Ghost in the Shell-esque type eggs there.
Now, like the show's main focus, let's kind of discuss that. It's about uploaded intelligence, which honestly it may seem kind of far-fetched, but I mean, you never know what might happen in the near future. So I'm kind of curious, what's like the overall message you're trying to convey about, I guess, both modern and future science and technology?
I like sci-fi stories that have both sides to them, like the good, hopeful aspect, as well as the cautionary tale. When you're talking about AI and the singularity and stuff like that, it's usually doomsday scenarios, and we definitely get to that tone as well. But the idea that you could still be in contact with your loved ones after, they die, in the case of, Maddie's dad, who has terminal cancer and elects to do this process so that he can keep going. It's about what would you sacrifice to live forever?
Now, since this is State of Streaming, I want to talk about like the release schedule. This particular show is being released on a week-to-week basis, as opposed to like certain. And honestly, I'll tell you right now, like I feel like it needs to, because there's so much to unpack per episode. What are your thoughts on like shows that pretty much drop all at the same time compared to you releasing this show on a weekly basis? Do you think that would have affected the writing process at all, or?
That's a good question. I don't know. I prefer week to week. I think about it like week to week drops. I've never been involved with something where it dropped all at once. But when you're talking about binging and serialized shows, I guess we do a lot less kind of catching you up and recapping. So I don't know if that eventually you're going to be able to binge it all, right? So, but yeah, I like to savor it. I like to go week to week. I like to wait.
I'm kind of curious, how was it like working with Titmouse? There's a young crew there, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them, they're animation fans, they're working in animation, so I'm kind of curious, what was it like working with them on just like the look, the vibe of the show?
It was amazing. The supervising director, Juno Lee, who's also an executive producer, and in my mind, 100% co-showrunner of the show. It was just such a great working relationship with him. He can control every aspect of it. It was really impressive. And we did a little pilot that no one will probably see. We produced in 2019, like a 10-minute short, just to prove to AMC, like, here's how this is going to look. You really, it's not going to embarrass you. It's going to look cool. We worked out a lot of the style in that process. It's not anime. It can't be anime. It's produced, here and finishing. The bulk of the animation's done in Korea. It's an anime influenced for sure. Sometimes we said Americanime. I might be the only person who said that actually.
You're coining it.
Yeah. But Titmouse, was fantastic and was able to adapt to anything.
Well, like honestly, I'll tell you right now, I don't think you can go wrong with Titmouse. They are one of the most amazing animation studios that I've ever seen, and I'm a big fan of their work. And I'm a big fan of your work. Pantheon is amazing. Craig, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you.
Pantheon is currently streaming on AMC+. Now, if you're a science fiction fan and you love an unpredictable, thrilling, and ever-evolving story, you should definitely give it a watch. But right now, keep watching us here as there's plenty more State of Streaming coming ahead.
Thank you so much, Akeem and Greg Silverstein. Pantheon is an interesting bit of sci-fi for sure, but we are squarely in our animation block here on State of Streaming. So speaking of animation, talk to me about Titmouse.
Titmouse is an awesome animation studio here in the United States. I'm sure people have heard of Titmouse. They've worked on a few small projects, the new Beavis and Butthead series, Star Trek Lower Decks, and one of my favorite animated series, Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix. They do awesome work. But what's interesting is they're partnering with maybe an unexpected new streaming platform, which is Motor Trend Plus. Yes, for you car folks out there, you go to the dentist, the doctor's office, you got a magazine on there and you pick it up. There's probably a Motor Trend. You've probably even seen a Motor Trend somewhere. They now have a streaming service called Motor Trend Plus. And this is their first adult animated series.
Wow, so Motor Trend Plus is now another live streaming service that we have to add to our wallets. What can people expect, type of shows to show up on this platform?
Well, this is their first big animated show, Super Turbo Story Time. Say that 3 times fast, which is really cool. People talking about, you're going to hear more about it in the interview upcoming, but people talking about stories about cars and Titmouse animating those stories and bringing them to life, which is just a really cool idea. And also that is the home of Street Racer. Oh. They have the rights to that. So if you want to watch old episodes of that, you can stream that on Motor Trend.
Well, it looks like I'm going to have to put that live streaming service onto my wallet. But yes, before we send it back to Akeem to chat with the creators, here's a clip from Super Turbo Story Time, coming soon to Motor Trend Plus.
There's people like the owner of the Lakers, the owner of the Clippers, Robin Williams. He wants this car. The first prototype, that was kind of the media car. Okay. It wasn't for sale, but the story goes, some crazy soccer player, a lot of money, eventually buys the thing. I say, dude, take it easy. Right. It's not 100%. Well, the exhaust falls off and catches fire to the carpet in the back. And they're like, bro, we told you to take it easy. You didn't take it easy. It's not our fault. Not our fault.
Super Turbo Story Time is a brand new adult animated series speeding its way to Motor Trend Plus next year. And here to tell us all about it is the executive producer of Motor Trend Plus, Gabriel Van Huss, and executive producer for Titmouse, Daniel Katz. How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Thank you for joining me, of course. Now, cartoons, cars, and storytelling, I gotta say, those are 3 things that personally I love. So I'm kind of curious, how did the idea for this show, how was it conceived? And what made Titmouse kind of like the perfect partner to take on this particular project?
We are huge fans of animation at Motor Trend. We think that our audience is mostly younger guys, and that's kind of the next frontier for storytelling, and it's been blowing up the past couple of years. Obviously starting with things like Rick and Morty have kind of changed the paradigm for storytelling and what adults pay attention to, what they watch, and our audience is moving into that space in streaming where, animation is really primed to be, the next big medium of storytelling. And Titmouse has been at the forefront of that revolution. So we thought they were the perfect partners to tell our stories.
And Daniel, what was the appeal for this project when they came to you all?
I've done some work for Titmouse, and I'm friends with Chris P, who's kind of the boss who kind of, they brought this show together with Chris P. And basically my 2 passions since I was like a baby have been cars and cartoons. And for some reason in my career, I've never really gotten to do both. I made an animated show about space, and there's no cars in space. But when Chris P called me and he's just like, hey man, we got this car animated thing. I was just like, yes, I'll do it. And he's like, you don't want to hear more? I was like, no, cars and animation, Chris. That's all you have to say. I'm on board.
I'm kind of curious, what is the format for the show? If you can kind of break it down, just general sense for our audience.
Yeah, so basically, what we were thinking with the show was, we, as car people, if you're into cars, you're always telling each other stories, like, oh, you never heard of that story, or like, oh, it's the real story of this car, like all this stuff. And I just like that tone, like that feeling of the way car people tell each other stories. So we kind of didn't want to do the sort of thing where it's like very documentary, where it's sort of like somebody, Ken Burns, right? We were like, all right, we're not going to do the Ken Burns version of car stories. We really wanted to capture what it's like when two people are just hanging out who like cars and telling each other car stories. And so we kind of created this format where we have two guests and they each take turns telling each other a story. And then we kind of animate to that. So we animate their conversation, and so there's more of a back and forth, right? It's more about a conversation and riffing about these things, and people sort of discovering these stories.
Okay, so it's kind of like would you say it's like it's a cross between live action and animation? So we have like two star-studded guests. Exhibit, I know is going to be on one of the episodes. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah,
I was a huge fan of Pimp My Ride, so I know he's got a lot of car stories. So where does like the comedy kind of come from? Would it be like from their interaction, or like maybe the animation style, or is it like would you say it's like a combination of both?
A combination of both. What we love about this show is that the stories aren't verifiable, right? They're either personal stories like Exhibit's car stories, which are wild and out there and super fun, or they're things that are lost to history. And so the animation comes in to fill in the gaps. Like there's no footage of it, there's no magazine articles of it. There's only this person telling the story. So you get these great renditions of someone telling the story, and they get details wrong, or they emphasize certain things because they personally love it. And then the animation fills in the gap, and that's where you can really dial in the comedy and find those really funny gags to go along with whatever they're talking about at the moment.
And it's an 8-episode, I would kind of say like pseudo-anthology series. So with that, because there's so many anthology series that have existed out there. So, and what happens with that is it's like different animation styles. So I'm kind of curious, will each episode have like a similar animation style or different?
Yeah, I think overall the animation style is pretty consistent, but I think like we have stories. I think our oldest story in history is from like 1902, and then we have Exhibit story, which is current. So it's almost there's over 100 years of time. So I think certain stories will have kind of a style to their own. Like we're doing the story of the Vector, which is like all very 80s and Outrun, and so even though the animation style is the same, like there's still tonally a lot of differences in the stories and the way they feel.
Yeah, there's a lot of inspiration from 80s animation to, we're telling the story of the Midnight Club, which is like the famous street racing group in Japan. So super anime inspired. So anime, kind of Easter eggs, a lot of overlays that feel very anime and animation style. So while the style is consistent episode to episode, there's a lot of inspiration that we're drawing from different eras of animation.
That's good. So we'll probably see some like Speed Racer Easter eggs as well. I know that like currently right now, I think that's the only animated show that you all have on the platform, on the streaming platform. So I'm kind of glad that this is happening. Like I know, so it leads right into my next question. Adult animation is fairly popular across streaming platforms, and with this being like the first original animated series for Motor Trend Plus, is there a chance of this, maybe like opening up the door for more on the streaming platform?
We hope so.
Yeah.
Again, we feel like animation is such a unique, kind of unbound version of storytelling, where to do stuff with real cars is very expensive. And not only do you have to do things with stunts and like actually making sure people are safe, actually building the cars and getting the cars ready is super expensive to tell that level of storytelling and narrative. So animation is like a unique way for us to get into narrative storytelling that someone like Motor Trend can really embrace in ways that we can't in live action.
Now, aside from this being an animated show, what do you think will set this show apart from other shows on Motor Trend Plus?
Definitely the comedy angle. A lot of our shows are very, I wouldn't say serious, but they're very dialed into fact, very dialed into process and detail. And this show aims for none of that. Like, we really are telling stories loosely, playing fast and loose with the rules and details, and letting the comedy come from these great stories, and our storytellers who are very passionate about the content in a way that may or may not be right to like the historical detail of it.
Well, Gabe, Daniel, I want to thank you both for joining me to tell us a little bit more about this show. I am super duper excited for it. And also, I'm expecting to see maybe some Megas XLR Easter eggs, some Motor City Easter eggs. I don't know if they are in there, but I'm hoping they are.
Maybe an Akeem somewhere in the background.
Yes! Oh, I love that. Super Turbo Storytime will be speeding its way onto Motor Trend Plus in 2023. So unless you have a DeLorean powered by plutonium or a Mr. Fusion energy reactor, you're going to have to wait for the future, and I guarantee you're gonna see some serious stuff. I have to say stuff. But we got plenty more streaming stuff coming right ahead, so stick around.
IGN State of Streaming 2022 is presented by 5-Hour Energy Shots for every late-night streaming session, and presented by T-Mobile.
The only thing better than listening to IGN podcasts is watching them. Luckily, all your favorite weekly shows are here on IGN One. Whether you're chasing the latest Xbox releases with Unlocked, looking for your PlayStation fix with Beyond, tracking everything coming to Switch with Nintendo Voice Chat, or catching up on this week's gaming news with GameScoop, we've got you covered. Check it out. Tune in every weekday at 5 p.m. for the best gaming coverage right here on IGN One.
Everybody loves watching a speedrun of their favorite game, but what if you got a chance to peek into the mind of the developers behind those games as they watch their hard work get completely destroyed right in front of them?
What is happening right now?
That's exactly what happens on every episode of Devs React to Speedruns. We invite you to ride along with the developers as they watch, react, and enjoy some of the craziest gameplay by the most skilled speedrunners on the planet. Tune in every Saturday for a brand new episode.
In a world with non-stop news about Marvel, Netflix, and Star Wars, you need a show with accurate reporting, hard-hitting commentary, and me. I'm Akeem Lewanson, the host of The Fix Entertainment. Whether it's the latest superhero scoop, film fiasco, or anime announcement, I'll be right here covering all the latest in major studio headlines and pop culture news. Make sure to catch The Fix Entertainment wherever you watch IGN.
Tune in to IGN One for the latest news on your favorite releases, gameplay exclusives, and all the entertainment you can handle. And maybe even some you can't.
Cinefix on IGN One, your friendly Friday night home for film fanaticism.
You're watching The Weekly Fix, ready to fill you in on anything you may have missed in the world of gaming and entertainment.
Find it all in one place on IGN One.
They turned into a network. Who knew?
Hey guys, welcome back to IGN State of Streaming, and right now we're headed to Gotham City. Here to talk about the newest animated entry into Bat lore and to share an exclusive trailer, it's showrunner of Batwheels, Michael G. Stern, and one of the stars, Jacob Bertrand. Thanks so much for being here, guys.
What's up? So great to be here. Thanks for having us.
And so, Michael, this is the first time that we've seen, the Batwheel made into a personality, a character. So did you feel the crushing weight of expectations with that job?
No doubt, no doubt. I'm a big Batmobile fan going all the way back to the old 66 show.
Yeah.
So definitely, I always wanted people to think of this as not as, oh, here's a preschool show with Batman in it, but as, here's this cool Batmobile show.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell me a little bit about the process of adding a personality to a car.
That is a great, great point. It's funny that because we have Batman in the show, one of the early worries was when kids start watching the show, are they just going to want to follow Batman and see what he does? And, the challenge was to really create super strong, amazing characters out of the cars. And luckily we had some amazing cast members to help us do this. And Bam, came forward as such a really strong character. We tested it early on and he tested through the roof, and much to our relief, the kids just absolutely adore Bam as much or more than Batman.
Yeah, and how did you guys develop his voice?
I got an audition in and sent in my tape, and
I guess they kind of liked it, and here we are. I think the biggest thing was just making him super earnest, and he's very, very caring for all of his siblings, you know. He is kind of like the big brother to all the other Batwheels as the leader. Yeah, I don't know. He's a really loving kid.
And also he's got a great sense of humor, and I think that came out with Jacob too. And if you could just be there for our recording sessions, it's just such a blast. We have the best time.
We do have a lot of fun.
Yeah, and were there any traits from the iconic Batmobiles that we've seen over the years that you wanted to incorporate into the character, whether it be, you know, personality-wise or the design?
Ooh, that's another really good question. I think certainly design-wise, you know, you can tell that it's inspired by a lot of Batmobiles. You know, the Tim Burton '89 Batmobile is sort of in there. It's more of our own spin on it. We wanted to make it because not only did we have to design the Batmobile, but we need to design a Batmobile as a character with a face. So that takes it to an entirely new dimension. So until we actually, you know, put the face on there and understood what it meant, because sometimes in the show the Batmobile is just the Batmobile, and sometimes the Batmobile is Bam, that those two things both had to work. And then when you added in the voice, as soon as we got Jacob's voice, I think the animators really were able to bring it to life, you know, and sort of use that as an inspiration, that kind of grounded, you know, wonderful sort of every kid voice that Jacob brought to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Michael, you mentioned that you're a fan of, you know, the Adam West, 66 kind of thing. So do you guys have a favorite Batmobile of those we've seen so far?
One of my first Batmans was the Christian Bale Batman, unfortunately, and I loved his Batmobile. Although the new Robert Pattinson one was pretty cool too.
And Jacob, what's it like to be a part of the DC universe now, and were you a fan before you were cast as Bam?
Oh yeah, it's pretty crazy to know, like, oh wow, like I'm kind of like a part of the DC universe, and definitely thank you for the opportunity.
Of course, and we are like, hey, the Batwheels verse is part of the DC multiverse. I mean, they actually, the people in charge of DC came to us early on and they said, your world is your world, so lean into it, you know, so we have just a little bit more vehicle friendly, a little bit more colorful, a little bit more fun and funny version of the DC universe, and the entire DC universe is available to us. So we'll be drawing on lots of that, and there's lots of fun to come for everyone watching who are big DC fans.
And, you know, talking about the rest of the cast, we are, as everyone should be, huge fans of Ethan Hawke. How did he become part of the show?
So Ethan read the scripts and really sort of understood right from the start what we were trying to do, which was really great. And he understood that, you know, we were approaching it with a little bit of a sense of humor, a little bit of a wink, but yet, you know, we were keeping Batman. That's the whole key to the show, was that we didn't sort of kidify Batman. Batman is exactly who he is. He's exactly the Batman you know and love. He does everything short of, you know, punching somebody in the face. We don't go that far, but Ethan plays him straight up, but with just this little bit of a twist of humor that comes out of kind of having to watch his two young wards. We have the two teens there, Robin and Batgirl, and so he's got to kind of deal with them, and he's got to kind of deal with all the crazy villains and everything going on around him, and the villains are always throwing puns at him, and so our version of Batman Ethan found like a humor in the dryness of Batman's frustration, like, more puns, I have to deal with this again. He developed something that we call like the Batman grumble. You know, it's just this little like, you know, I'm trying to fight crime here and I still have to deal with this. Yeah. So he really brought something fun to it.
No, and obviously he's one of many actors that we've seen play Batman. Were there any inspirations that he took from anyone else, or maybe like something he really wanted to stay away from, or anything like that?
It's funny, you know, when we first got in there and played around with the Batman voice, you try different things, but you inevitably come back to that thing, you know, because that's Batman. And the key to this whole show was to keep Batman cool. Like, we didn't want to get into a big parody of Batman. We didn't want to be making fun of Batman. We wanted to keep him cool, because the reason that, you know, this hasn't always clicked in the past for this audience is because they've never really got to meet the real Batman or the real superhero, whoever that may be. So we're offering up a version that is really true to the character that I think anyone will love. The kids, the 4-year-old watching it, the older sibling, parents, Batman fans, I think they'll all love it because we stayed true to that character, kept him cool, didn't make it feel like some kiddie show for them, while at the same time for the young kids, it's just exciting and fun, and they're right with it.
Yeah, well, that's good because we know how generation spanning Batman is. But to bring it back to Bam, Jacob, does Bam have any like catchphrases or anything like that you can share with us today?
Oh, wow. Am I allowed to?
Why not?
My wheels are turning and my rubber's burning.
Right?
Rev up and peel out. Oh, high five? Let's drive.
Let's drive. Okay, that was it. Yeah.
That's a good one.
High
I
five,
like that.
that was a good one.
High
Forgot
five,
about
let's
that.
drive.
And what was your favorite part of bringing Bam's voice to life?
I love just the funny interactions between everyone, and they've really built up. Like, I have a very specific relationship with each Batwheel, and it's fun getting to do, a super brotherly camaraderie relationship with Redbird, and, we just did an episode that's, mainly me and Buff, and, helping BB out, or Batwing, and I don't know, it's so much fun. The world feels super, super complete, and I'd say that's one of the most fun things, is to hop into a show and get to be a voice in a show that feels like it's been around for a while.
Yeah, and of course you have all these iconic characters around you, like Batman, like Joker, like Catwoman. How do you make sure that the cars themselves aren't overshadowed?
Because it's really down to things like the performances of the actors. They really bring it out, and let's face it, like, Batman's vehicles are cool, like, and the gadgets we've given them, and so the kind of action we have. Our supervising producer Simon Smith is brilliant, comes from the feature world, and he brought this sort of visceral racing action to this, where it's just unlike anything you've ever seen. Right down to the fact that another unique thing about this show for this age group is that it takes place entirely at night, which is really unusual for a preschool show. It's usually, bright blue skies and puffy white clouds and rainbows, but for us, it was just, we wanted to show a world that kids that young don't usually get to experience, because they have to go to bed, so they don't usually get to go adventuring at night. So we have something really new and cool here that, at first the powers that be were a little nervous, like, is that going to be all right? And we assured them it'll be colorful, and what we created is just this sort of bright, colorful, neon, exciting world that we can inhabit, and I think we've got something really unique going. And it's also, Gotham is another one of those things that's a little vehicle leaning. Mm-hmm. There's more ramps and tunnels and bridges and jumps and things that, otherwise you might, again, there are other action shows for this age group, but I think nothing quite like this. You're not going to find something that goes quite this far in terms of the kind of action. So designing Gotham was really around that, how to maximize that coolness and that speed.
Well, it's a very fun show, and the secret origin of Batwheels is on HBO Max literally right now. But before we go, Michael, you're able to share the premiere date and give us an exclusive trailer. So would you mind setting that up for us?
Yes, Batwheels will be premiering on Cartoonito on Cartoon Network on October 17th, and then a day later on HBO Max.
All right, let's take a look at that trailer.
Coming soon to Cartoonito, Cartoon Network's home for preschool. Buckle up!
My wheels are turning and my rubber's burning!
For a really big adventure! Meet the Batwheels! When this team works together,
let's burn rubber!
Nothing can slow them down!
It's quiet.
Too quiet.
I can make some noise if it'll make you feel better.
Batwheels! Premieres Monday, October 17th at 9 on Cartoonito, and next day on HBO Max.
That was the Season 1 trailer of Batwheels, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of IGN State of Streaming 2022.
IGN State of Streaming 2022 is presented by T-Mobile and presented by 5-Hour Energy Shots for every late-night streaming session.
I'm Akeem Lawanson, and this is What to Watch on IGN 1. It's a weekly show where we check out the latest and greatest in trailers, reviews, and everything else in the world of entertainment. Tune in to new episodes every Friday at 9 p.m. on IGN 1.
IGN is your go-to for the latest and best in games, movies, and television. And with over 50 million IGN subscribers, you're in good company.
Oh, we're shooting turkeys!
Thanks to your help, we've raised over $100,000 for charity. Brought you and creators the world over together for events like Gamescom and DC Fandom.
Brenton Thwaites here, I play Dick Grayson.
And made your voices heard. You voted almost 30 million times in our best video game of all time and Super Movie Madness tournaments, and posted over 40 million times on IGN's message boards. The chat must flow. Catch our unending stream of up-to-date news and so much more over at IGN.com or subscribe to IGN on YouTube. And check out IGN Games and IGN Movies and TV for deep dives into your preferred pop culture. Plus, IGN guides to get help on veritably any game from our team of experts. No matter where you are, IGN.com, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, IGN has you covered.
IGN Playlist is all of your games in one place. You can build your library and discover new games. Create and follow playlists from friends. Access guides for what you're playing. And rate and rank the games you love to share with the world. Available free with your IGN account. It's for players, no matter where you play.
What's up, everybody? I'm Stella Chung, and you're about to get your weekly fix. This is the show where we round up all the biggest gaming and entertainment headlines you won't want to miss. Tune into new episodes every Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern and Pacific on IGN1.
Welcome back to State of Streaming, my friends. Our next guests have a new show, fresh out the oven, ready to deliver to you, literally today, or your order is free. From Hulu's new food competition show, Best in Dough, Wells Adams, and Chef Daniele Uditi. Guys, thanks so much for being here, and sorry for all the puns in that intro. Really appreciate you being here.
I love the puns.
I consider myself the delivery boy of this show, and if you don't love the show in the first 30 minutes, the rest of the season's free. I don't know if I can legally say that, but let's go with it.
You heard it right here, folks, from Wells Adams. That's a fact. No. Oh, guys, just want to get right into it. We get really high-minded about pizza here for a minute. In the description of the show, it talks about a universal love of pizza. So why do you think pizza is such a community-building food? Daniele, can we start with you?
I mean, I think in every culture, as first of all, hi, beautiful people, ciao. In every culture, there is a flatbread, right, with ingredient on top. So, give or take, everybody has their own style of pizza. So at the end of the day, it's a familiar food. It's something that takes you to your childhood because everybody had a slice of pizza and their own favorite things. And I think that's why it's the most iconic food out there.
Listen, when you're drunk, what are you eating? You're eating pizza. And what do they say about people who are drunk? A sober man's thoughts are a drunk man's words. Well, a drunk man always wants the truth. And the truth is pizza is delicious. So it's for everybody.
Of course, you have to make it all about the drinks. That's not.
I'm a bartender on a different show, Daniele. What do you expect me to do?
Dude, but pizza is not just for drunk people. It's for regular people that just want to enjoy their lunch or dinner.
Folks, for those of you who don't know, if you're wondering what show Wells is making a reference to, he's a part of the Bachelor universe. He will be on Bachelor in Paradise. My wife and I are huge fans. Wells, that's a different show. We're not talking about that right now, but be sure to check him out on that. But Daniele, I know you're from Naples and you grew up around baking and pizza and just a lot of dough, right, in general. But with this baking show, can you talk about anything that was? I mean, I know you know your pizza. You know how to create some incredible pizzas, but was there anything that the contestants brought to Best of Dough that legitimately surprised you?
I think every challenge that you see in a different episode, there's something that is, first of all, is made up to tickle my nerves because there is some pineapples going on and some weird shape of pizza, which as much as I love traditional, I also am adventurous. But the most characteristic things about the show, and I went with the hand already, is that every different challenge there is something that you not expect. For example, in the trailer you can see a pizza cupcake, and as it should, an Italian grandmother should say, "No, I don't want to do it. I do whatever the hell I want." And in a different episode, you're gonna see all these out-of-the-box ideas on all related to pizza. I think that's what's fantastic about the show, and seeing my reaction to, and even Wells when he announces his reactions are very, very, very fun.
And Wells, I want to go to you. I'm curious, Wells, about if you remember the first time that you fell in love with pizza. I know for me, I grew up in Western New York, so it was this place called Renna's Pizza, the small mom and pop place. New York style pizza. I just fell in love with it. But for you, Wells, I'd love to hear your story. Like, what was the first time that you fell in love with pizza?
Well, I mean, I think probably after like a baseball game, like a T-ball game, we'd go and have pizza, and that was I have like very fond memories of that. But one thing that was kind of interesting, I think one of the reasons why I got this job was my father kind of retired from being a doctor and then tried his hand at being a chef, and so he built a pizza oven in our front yard. And we would have huge pizza parties when I was in middle school and high school, and it was so much fun. We'd, put out all the ingredients, and my dad would get all the dough ready, and everyone could make their own pie. Probably a little bit of an insurance liability, letting just like random people slide pies into a 700-degree oven. But no one was actually hurt, which is surprising. So yeah, I have this like very fond memory of growing up making pizza and having it be this thing that brought everybody together. And it's just bonkers to me that this show doesn't exist yet. I mean, there's a cooking show for everything. Is this Microphone Cake is a show? How is there not a show about the one thing that everybody loves, which is pizza?
I wanted to stick with the food for a minute because I just had this thought, because I've always wanted to ask this question. When I look at cooking shows, I'm always like, what if you don't like something? Because I know not everybody likes everything. I'm a pretty open eater. Like, I'm open to at least try things once. But Daniela, I heard you mention earlier about pineapple. And even when I just hear that, the pineapple, the fruit on the pizza, that fruit on that pizza, I just don't get it. I know some people love it. But how do you keep your mind open to when you're trying something new like that, to be like, okay, maybe this isn't my favorite style, but this is something pretty special?
I believe there is always something good in anything that people can do, right? You cooking, you start with a good thoughts. You cook because you want to make people happy. At least that's why I cook. So when you don't like something, I always pay attention on not be so harsh on people. I always say 5 things good and just one little thing bad that I don't like. So when it happened on the show that I had pineapple, and I believe that each ingredient can be treated as balance. Like, if you know how to balance ingredient, even a fruit can make sense on a piece of toast. I mean, there is toast of everything: fig toast, peach toast, peach and prosciutto. There is like a combination that was weird until 10 years ago. So I believe if you have the knowledge and you have good intention, everything can make sense. But if you don't like something, just straight smile and say, maybe not my favorite things, maybe try again.
Well, can you comment on that too? I know, without maybe spoiling anything, say anything that you tried during the competition that you're like, wow, I never thought I'd like that you went home with, like, that's something I would never order on a menu?
Yeah, I said that a lot, actually. We were put in front of us things that were very, very odd, mainly because I would do these out-of-the-box challenges for the chefs and make them do very odd things. But more times than not, they came back absolutely delicious. And I would say, like, if I sat down in a restaurant, I would never order this. I'm so glad I had to eat it because this was fantastic.
There's an interesting release schedule for Best in Dough. It's 10 episodes across 3 weeks, so it's sort of a half binge. I just wanted to ask you guys, do you prefer this to an all-out binge, or are you more of a one episode at a time kind of people?
What I don't want it to happen is, I do this a lot, where I'll put on a streaming show at night and I'll fall asleep and it'll like stream the entire thing. So I kind of love that, like, it's broken up. So like, I wouldn't like rip through the entire thing and be like, oh, I guess I'm done with this show now. I don't know.
And Danielle, I'm just curious, like, your personal preference, real quick, my last question for you. Do you like the all-out binges, or do you like one at a time?
I mean, I like the fact that this show is being released in small pills, because you get the 3 episodes and then hopefully it gives you something to look forward for the next week. But at the end of the day, I'm a nerd and I love finishing everything at once. I watch series on Hulu all the time, and I finish almost in one day, to the point that my family comes, dude, you're still watching TV? So that's so good, I want to finish it. I feel like that expectation with 3 episodes being released and then you have more coming next week, it makes you more excited. So I like the fact that it's releasing small pills.
I agree. I think it kind of adds a little layer of suspense to it. But Well, Best in Dough is on Hulu starting today, folks. It's very exciting. You can watch it today, September 19th, with new episodes dropping Mondays. Wells, Daniele, thanks again for being here, guys, and thank you for watching IGN State of Streaming. We'll be right back with more right after this.
Medium rare. Look at that perfect medium rare there. I mean, that's God. You just put it there to tease me.
Big Daddy, tell me, right? Oh my God! Adrian's known for his lamb, and it's intimidating, but I'm extremely competitive. You gotta give that a try. I've been training martial arts my entire life. I have a black belt in Gracie Barra Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm extremely confident that this round, I got it. Beautiful. Okay.
So what do you guys think of Joe's meat?
It was actually great.
Wow. Are you guys worried or what?
I said it was great. I didn't say it was mind-blowing. I know I set myself up for that one, so.
Well, we just spent 10 minutes talking about pizza, and there's nobody else we can talk to about anything better than pizza, but I do want to bring it home by talking to you guys who are the experts about the state of streaming. So let's get into it. Yeah, David.
Do you want to talk about the budgets on the higher side of things and what streamers are doing to compete with each other?
Yeah, especially since streaming, because streaming is the most expensive, some of their tier pricing for some of them, Disney is like the lowest for some reason, but then you have like Amazon and Apple TV. Obviously people are looking at their wallets like, oh God, I don't want to add another streaming service. But let's talk about pricing. Alex, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think people are really responding as far as pricing goes to like what's on the streaming platform right now, which is why I think Disney Plus is really interesting, because I know a lot of people who will like cancel their subscription while there's not a Star Wars or Marvel show on, and then renew it when there is a Star Wars or Marvel show on. And Disney is basically being like, there's not going to be a lot of times where that's not happening. So stay subscribed. Everyone's just kind of trying to give like consumers reasons to say subscribed. I mean, like, you know, Prime Video has Rings of Power, and those who, like people who want to watch that week to week, gotta be on Prime Video. Same with House of the Dragon and HBO Max. And you know, Netflix has always done the binge model, but you look at Stranger Things over the summer, and that was like the first time that Stranger Things has been released in 2 parts. Yeah. So I think a lot of people kind of speculated that, you know, maybe that was so people wouldn't just watch season 4 and then unsubscribe. So I think everyone's just kind of fighting to make as much money as they can, but not be too inaccessible as far as price range goes, and also give everyone reasons to stay subscribed week to week.
Yeah, and you were talking, David, about Apple TV before having only 5. Now they have a lot more series.
Apple TV is low-key one of the best streamers out there right now. I mean, I think it's still $4.99. I don't know if they sold that deal at one point. If you bought an Apple product, you get an iPad, you get some headphones, whatever you get it for a year free. And there's a lot of good programming, and they have sports ball. Okay, sports. Not everybody likes sports. Sports are very regional. Apple has baseball. I don't know how big American baseball is in Spain or somewhere else. Probably not as big, but they have a variety of programming there. And also you can subscribe to different platforms from Apple's interface if you want. You can get a Stars channel, you can get a Showtime channel, things like that. It's more variety than I think Netflix has. Netflix is not cheap. If you want I don't know, maybe it's just me. I like to see the content in the best form that I can, so I want the 4K package. 4K package costs $20. That's a lot, and Netflix is under 10. You know, Amazon, you get 2 free days shipping on top of, for Prime, on top of Lord of the Rings. So I don't know, it depends it depends on your budget, but the beauty, like Alex said, my favorite thing about streaming is you can cancel anytime. I'm old, you can call me out in the chat, I'm old. Back in the day, you'd have to call the cable provider and you have to be on the phone with them for an hour about, I want to cancel, what can I do? It would take an hour to get off the phone to cancel your cable subscription. Here, if you want to cancel Netflix, maybe you answer one question, you cancel, and you're done. So streaming is the way to go, but it's not cheap.
Yeah, and then considering there's like an IP war, obviously, like specifically with Stranger Things. Amelia, can you talk to me about how, like, obviously Stranger Things is super expensive, but Netflix is doubling down on that series, obviously, with the season 5. What can you tell us about like the idea of like IP wars, and if it's actually a real thing between the platforms?
I don't think it's real. I don't think it's real in the same way that, you know, some folks will say, well, it's Marvel versus DC, or it's Star Wars versus Star Trek. It's not. You can like all of those things. And that's why, like, the IP wars don't really, I think they're fake. I think they're a talking point that we use, and that maybe some, like, fans will have conversations around when they want to argue about something, but that's kind of the beauty and the difficultness of our state of streaming right now, where there's just so much. And I guess maybe that is where it could come in. We're like, well, maybe if I'm watching all of this, I'm not going to watch this over here. I do want to highlight Apple, which hasn't joined that IP war conversation yet, but I do think that we will see them join it a little bit with Monarch. I think that's going to be their big play into the fight there with their Godzilla versus Kong.
You were saying before as well, David, that sometimes people like unsubscribe to certain things when their favorite shows are not there. So talk to us about like what happens when everyone's subscribed? What happens when, you know, prices go up for some of these things and they start like injecting ads in between some of the shows?
Well, I think we're getting, I don't want to say we're going to do a point of saturation. I think Disney grew like over like 10 million or something. They had really good growth, but Netflix lost 1 million subscribers. So we're getting to a point now because there is so much TV to watch. Like, wait, I don't need to be on Netflix right now because maybe Stranger Things is off. That's what I have Netflix for. I'm done. What's on Apple? What's on Disney Plus? You can move around like that. So I think it's been the goal of all these streamers is to keep people subscribed as long as they can, to give them the most content. I think, now I can't speak again for the rest of the world, but I know, for instance, we have Peacock has the rights to the Premier League in the United States. The big fight now is NFL in America here. So it's like, who's going to get the NFL? That'll keep people around for a few months. You know, Amazon has Thursday Night Football exclusively. That's like $1 billion deal. That's huge money. Money I don't think Netflix can invest in. But I think that's going to be the interesting thing. I think that's the next frontier is sports. Even though I know it's not the most, it's not Batman. It's not. I know. You know, it's not the most exciting thing, but I think sports is the big frontier that's going to be explored.
But David, you're right. I mean, like as someone who really loves football, but I'm from Chicago and my team is in Chicago, but I live in LA. I'm always looking for what streaming service will allow me to watch the games, especially out of region. So there's a lot going, and it's a big. Like I would subscribe to something if I could watch the Bears games when I want to watch them.
Yeah.
Bears.
The Bears.
The Bears.
Any last talks, Amelia? Any last points?
Yeah, I think it comes down to both value add and market saturation. Like, not every streamer is available in every country. So when they hit the value point in North America, they expand to other countries and so on and so forth past those other countries. But HBO Max, like tying back to where it sits in this conversation, both with expenses and the Discovery merger, we're currently seeing them as the most expensive streamer outside of Netflix's 4K package. And when it comes to their ad tier that they've just added, it's almost double what Hulu is at their ad tier. And we're seeing them pull back on the availability on their streamer. So like they're stuck in this weird spot where they either have to expand or they have to stop focusing on their streaming platform as much as they have been in the past.
All right. So this is my last question for all of you guys, but as experts, what platform do you use the most? And obviously, what would you recommend, for anyone that's like, I only have $15 that I can spend a month on a live streaming platform. Where should I put my money in? We'll start with you, Alex.
So it totally depends what you're into. It's funny because I watch all my streaming services on my Xbox. And so like Hulu is always consistently in there because it has a lot of like kind of my comfort shows, like kind of like sitcoms, like How I Met Your Mother, or things you can just turn on. So I think it entirely depends on what you're into. If you really like seeing things like What We Do in the Shadows or like sitcoms, Hulu has a lot of those. But if you're looking for more original shows, Netflix has tons and tons and tons of those. But HBO Max also has a really fantastic movie selection. So I go to HBO Max a lot for their movies.
David?
You know, it's weird. Again, I'm old. I think it's YouTube TV probably, which I know is a way to consume a new way of consuming cable. But at YouTube TV, I still have a DVR set, and I still I digitally fast forward through things, and that's where I watch my sports ball and all that, and probably YouTube TV. Honestly, I think it's a great. It's not an ad.
I've never heard of it.
I like YouTube TV. I use YouTube TV probably the most.
Wow.
Not because it's the best show, it's just because I still use the traditional cable system.
Yeah. Now I gotta get YouTube TV.
Yeah.
Amelia.
It's seasonal because like my job is to watch all of the shows. So like it depends on what season it is. But when I am watching something not for work, it's always on Hulu because I can watch my dumb cooking shows that don't require me to pay attention at all. But if I had to recommend one It's got to be Apple TV Plus.
So Apple TV is like the one that everyone should watch.
It's not the most shows, but
it's the best show.
Yeah, it's like if you're doing, again, sorry, all the sports references, batting average, I think Apple's got a good batting average. Like there's more good than bad.
Well, we do review most of them, and I like as the reviews editors, I see all the scores, and the scores are always high.
Yeah.
For Apple, like their shows are all good.
Quality over quantity. They outbat Sports Metaphor. Everybody else.
This has been an absolutely amazing conversation. I have to think about YouTube Live now and Apple TV. But thank you, Alex, David, Amelia, for tuning in today and joining me for this conversation. And thank you guys for joining us today on IGN State of Streaming. This has been 3 hours of IGN State of Streaming 2022. But remember to stay tuned all week for platform reviews and in-depth analysis of all things streaming. I'm Nars, and start your countdowns. Just 365 and a half days till State of Streaming 2023. We'll see you then.
IGN State of Streaming 2022 is presented by 5-Hour Energy Shots for every late-night streaming session, and presented by T-Mobile.
The only thing better than listening to IGN podcasts is watching them. Luckily, all your favorite weekly shows are here on IGN One. Whether you're chasing the latest Xbox releases with Unlocked, looking for your PlayStation fix with Beyond, tracking everything coming to Switch with Nintendo Voice Chat, or catching up on this week's gaming news with GameScoop, we've got you covered. Check it out. Tune in every weekday at 5 p.m. for the best gaming coverage right here on IGN One.
Tune into IGN One for the latest news on your favorite releases, gameplay exclusives, and all the entertainment you can handle. And maybe even some you can't.
Cinefix on IGN One, your friendly Friday night home for film fanaticism.
You're watching The Weekly Fix, ready to fill you in on anything you may have missed in the world of gaming and entertainment.
Find it all in one place on IGN One.
They turned into a network. Who knew?
Everybody loves watching a speedrun of their favorite game, but what if you got a chance to peek into the mind of the developers behind those games as they watch their hard work get completely destroyed right in front of them?
What is happening right now?
That's exactly what happens on every episode of Devs React to Speedruns. We invite you to ride along with the developers as they watch, react, and enjoy some of the craziest gameplay by the most skilled speedrunners on the planet. Tune in every Saturday for a brand new episode.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're constantly updating our feeds to bring you the latest news, gameplay, custom original content, memes, the best user-generated videos and art, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat.